at everyone. It was got 6. Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? Yo, 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 yo. What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? All right. How's everybody doing? Normally I wouldn't. Normally I just try to work on this on my own, but long story short, I need people's help. I require assistance. This is kind of fucked. This is kind of stupid. It's not coming out in the next century. I've got look at how much shit I've got written so far, dude. Look at how much shit I've gotten written so far, and I'm not even in the reason. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know, man. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a bit of context. I ran into a bit of an issue. I need to discuss it first and foremost. So let me just run you guys by the scaling, and then I'll cover it. Essentially, I went through the entire first portion of the scaling, essentially talking about my metric, why I don't use calcs, why I say fuck calcs, all that crap, and then I kind of go into like the I'm talking about Naruto first, and I'm essentially covering a lot of the early portions of the speed scaling within Naruto, specifically going into like the tuning exams, the land of waves, all of that crap. But the issue that kind of comes in, and I was kind of going into like this whole conversation of Rock Lee. Yeah, you're safe from the new chapter. We're not going to talk about that right now. Essentially, I'm kind of stuck at a specific thing right now, and just to clear it up, it's specifically in regards to Sasuke. So let me just go over a couple things. For starters, I'm gonna just pull out some like points right here, just so I can like cover some things for you guys about what I've covered so far. What I've covered so far. Land of Waves, the lack of speed scaling, and the early Naruto light speed meta, right? I've already covered all of those things, right? I kind of go into this whole position of how the early portions of the story, specifically when we finally get into the tuning exams, are actually the only point in time where I'm currently at figuring out Naruto's speed based on Sasuke and Lee, right? You already heard this shit, 6, but my problem kind of comes into the later portions. There's no early Naruto yeah, there is. People argue it, it's inconsistent, it doesn't make any fuck-ass sense, but there is, right? I'm trying to be like, as, blitz the perception of the same random fodder ninjas. Hold on. Let me kind of just break this down, right? The current part of the video that I'm talking about essentially goes into the speed scaling for Naruto and the others as far as the series goes, right? So far, what I have been able to deduce, right? And I will be talking about Rock Lee in a little bit, but no, I'm not dead, Memento. How you been though? It essentially boils down to a bit of an issue where, like, okay, Sasuke is clearly not capable of entirely perceiving Rock Lee, at least within this first early portion of the tuning exams. Even Sakura considers Lee to be fast, and Sasuke specifically says, that, like, he has to be doing something weird with his chakra, right? Sasuke can't even figure out that Rock Lee is capable of, Sasuke doesn't even remotely think that, like, Lee is necessarily using, like, martial arts or taijutsu. He's specifically focusing on ninjutsu and, genjutsu, right? Rock Lee is fast enough to now perception blitz Sasuke in close quarter combat, which does imply higher combat speed. And I know some of you are gonna say that, like, Rock Lee should just be straight up all around faster than Sasuke. I would probably argue reaction-wise, maybe not, just because of the Haku stuff, but it's here and there, right? Now, the Sharingan means absolutely nothing. Sasuke gets absolutely speed blitzed, gets rocked up into the air, and then essentially is about to get cracked down by the Hidden Lotus, where it says right here, page. No, not here. My bad. Where it says right here, if your Sharingan can see the hearts and can see the hearts of every ninja and the art is willing to duplicate it. I'm sure your Sharingan is an invaluable art, like ninjutsu and genjutsu. Their formalized rules, sign casting, but physical taijutsu arts in their pure form are a very different story. Even if you can perfectly perceive and understand my movements, you lack the speed and strength to counter them. You haven't had the physical training necessary to keep up with me, right? Now, here's a bit of an issue, right? Now, here's where we're kind of falling into a bit of an issue, right? So, Rock Lee eventually does, literally talking with someone who says Unique Kaguya because chakra volume equals AP, but he disagrees and has more AP than most of the verse, and I asked him that, how can people be such I don't really care what people are choosing to believe or convince themselves. We are already aware, this isn't anything new that we haven't discussed before, people just essentially making rules for thee, but not for me. Essentially making the most egregious fucking claims that a character or whatever is capable of doing something, but it completely contradicts established evidence for other characters or for the rest of the story. I'm not really here to cover any of that. I'm specifically here to cover this point right here that I'm talking about. Specifically because as we move along to like the later portions of the tuning exams, and I'm just gonna skip through some of this. By the way, I know some of you guys don't like using the anime or whatever, but I did look into this fight. A lot of people have this idea that Sasuke like blitzes the explosion, but even though he does say "ow," and I did check that out in the anime. Sasuke versus Hidden Rain Ninja. Yeah, I already checked this one out. Can't wait for the video, not gonna lie. Gotta fight back against these arguments. No, they're terrible arguments for sure, don't get me wrong. Yeah, right here. So this is where, like, the explosion, the whole, like, explosion things happen. Yeah. The explosion wasn't that powerful and Sasuke took the blow. I don't know what else to say about it. I don't know what else to say. The paper bombs that these guys use are probably just not that powerful to begin with. I know if some of you, if some of you don't want to agree with the anime, that is completely fine, but the manga doesn't really perceive Sasuke to be physically evading the explosion anyway. The reason why I'm bringing this up is specifically because as we move on to, like, you know, the later portions of the series, specifically going into, specifically a later portion of the series, where Rock Lee blitzes Dozu. Here's where my problem's coming in, right? So, I think we've discussed this before, but, yeah, Rock Lee knocks him up into the air, tries to send him down into the ground, and Zaku is able to perceive it and use a sonic wave attack that, a specific sonic wave attack that, crushes the soil beneath them so that they can, soften it. In other words, Dozu doesn't take the damage, right? My bad. This is where I'm kind of going to need a little bit of help, and it's in regard to this statement, specifically right here, right? Where the fuck is it? Oh, it says right here. Your attacks may be fast, but ours are supersonic. And muscles can't break down this wall of sound. This statement specifically implies that Rock Lee is not faster than the speed of sound. The primary lotus must be used at the very least at the speed of sound. But we then reach a bit of an issue. As we progress into the conversation about the Hidden Lotus and all this other stuff, we can see right here that it's stated, so Lee with weights in this fight was below subsonic. I would say he is at least subsonic to supersonic. Sorry, subsonic to Mach 1. There's no way I can give Rock Lee anything faster. It's travel speed instead of combat speed. I get where people are coming from, and you can definitely argue that the initial blow of the primary lotus is the attack that is Mach 1, with the other attacks being with essentially the drop of the hidden lotus, the primary lotus, and the entire wrap up and everything else not being the speed of sound, or Mach 1. You can argue that the entire thing is Mach 1. You can argue that just the kick itself You can either argue the kick itself and the blitz towards it is Mach 1, or you can argue that the entire process of the attack is Mach 1. Either way, Rock Lee can't block their attacks. Obviously, he cannot see the attack coming. You can always make the argument that Dozu and Zaku are not themselves Mach 1 or supersonic, only that their attacks are supersonic. But it creates a bit of an inconsistency when you get to Sasuke specifically. Well, to be fair, sound wave speeds can change in different means. I understand that, but there's nothing else I can go off of. I don't really care about interpretations here. I don't really care about the mental gymnastics to make him seem stronger or faster. I just care what is being stated and shown in the series. And so far, the only thing I have to go off of is a statement saying, Rock Lee may be fast, but their attacks are... His moves may be fast. In other words, his attacks may be fast, but theirs are supersonic. Supersonic makes it fall within the realm of one. Dozu's statement makes it implies RL's moves are fast, but theirs are supersonic. So Mach 2 to Mach 5, Mach 2 to 5. Therefore, Lee must be at best Mach 1, right? Okay. Supersonic, my bad. Sorry. But anyway, now here's where the issue comes in, right? Like, all of this stuff is consistent. All of this stuff is consistent. All of this stuff makes sense to me. Yada, yada, yada. Especially since if Lee removes his weights and he's capable of moving at Mach 5 speeds, etc., in order to blitz Gaara's sand, etc., 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 you can technically argue Lee is like Mach anywhere below Mach 2, so like Mach 1.1 to Mach 1.9 if you want to. But the problem that I have with this isn't really so much anything here. All of this I can essentially come down to a conclusion on my own. And this is where I kind of am now gonna reach a bit of an issue. It's not a 12 times amp from the gates. It's dozens of times when you have the gates to an unquantifiable degree. I know what you're referencing. Didn't Lee Perception Blitz Sasuke? He does Perception Blitz Sasuke. While Sasuke does have the Sharingan. This is where I mean when I say this is just completely inconsistent. And it's not even because of that. It's specifically because of this right here. Sasuke with the curse mark. Sasuke is slower than Lee. We know that for a fact. Sasuke has to be slower than Rock Lee. But where the problem that I have comes in is that Sasuke is able to dodge Zaku's attack. Isn't that a supersonic feat? No, it would be a Mach 1 feat. I don't know why. Why would it be a supersonic feat? What makes it supersonic? What makes Sasuke Mach 1 in the first place? When does Lee Perception Blitz Sasuke? I'll bring up the panels for you guys. I'll bring them up separately so we can just have them all up real quick. He blitzes Sasuke right here. Right here, he blitzes Sasuke. Sasuke brings out the Sharingan. Sasuke moves towards Rock Lee, and the literal next page, he just gets knocked up into the air. This is just completely blatant. Yeah, Sasuke also, I don't know, perception blitzing a human. I don't really care about the whole perception blitzing human shit. That doesn't mean anything to me. That means absolutely nothing to me, and nothing within the actual story specifies that Lee is at supersonic speeds. Let me just bring that up again. Yes, I get you that this is Curse Mark Sasuke, but this is where I'm kind of coming into an issue, right? Part 1 feats are so inconsistent in speed. Yes, they are inconsistent, and I might need to actually make a comment on that, but give me a second so I can again bring up the Dosu comment, right? I need to bring up the Dosu comment. Again, your moves may be fast, but ours are supersonic, which again means that they have to be anywhere between Mach 2 to Mach 5. You cannot argue Lee is supersonic. You cannot argue it. It does not make sense. There is nothing that actually proves it. The only reason why you would say that is because of some weird real world, well, you would have to be super fast to be supersonic to be to perception blitz a human, but I think that you can unironically perception blitz a person even with a fucking 90 not 90 mile per hour ball. It doesn't matter. Okay. Here's the problem. In order for Sasuke to blitz this, supersonic attack from Zaku, right? In order for Sasuke to blitz this attack, that means that he must now be, at the very least, anywhere between Mach 2 to Mach 5 himself, but he is slower than Rock Lee. There is a statement earlier in the arc, throughout this little fight, just before Lee uses the Hidden Lotus, that says, normally human beings utilize a mere 20% of their own muscular energy. If anyone were to employ anything even close to 100% of their strength of his muscles, the muscles themselves would break down, so the brain sets a limit on how much of our own muscle power we are willing and able to use. The secret of this technique is in overriding the internal cranial safety features, given the wielder access to all of his own chakra. Dangerous as it is, the result is the release of enough muscle power to enable the wielder to perform a series of grueling and demanding tasks at incredible speeds. Right? Okay, so Rock Lee can only perform these speeds while he's using the first gate of opening, right? We have to then assume that the first gate of opening is wouldn't he just be faster than weighted Lee and slower than weightless Lee? You're not understanding what I'm saying. I haven't even gotten to my point. You're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm just going to express my point right here. The problem. In order, using a singular and consistent feat for anything in an anime should be seen as an agenda. Hold on. The problem. Lee, with the primary Lotus, first gate, is 5 times faster than base, right? Which means that Lee's base form with weights, okay, that means that Lee's base form with weights, because the speed of sound is, what was it again, 360 something meters per second. The speed of sound is 343 meters per second. 343 divided by 5. That means that Lee's top speed should be 68 meters per second, or 767, funny number, divided by 5, 153 miles per hour, right? That means Sasuke's base speed, has to be anywhere around this speed or lower. Sasuke's base speed has to be around this speed or lower. But the curse mark then allows Sasuke to not only keep up with Zaku, but also speed blitz him, right? Let's go back into the numbers, right? 767 times 2 equals 1,534 miles per hour. Now, 767 divided by 5 is 153 times 10 equals the same value, right? Which means that either this version of Sasuke, which means that this version of Sasuke would have to be getting at least a 10 times amp. The problem is that this version of Sasuke, in order to be even fast enough to keep up with that attack, has to be at least as fast as a supersonic speeds, which at the bare minimum is still Mach 2. I don't care about any of that shit right now. I don't care about memes. I don't care about jokes. I only care about figuring this out, because I'm going to be stuck on this longer, and I could use a couple of different perspectives to help me write this script out. Can Amaterasu be avoided? I don't care about Amaterasu. Listen, if it has nothing to do with this, I do not give two shits. I don't care about Amaterasu. I don't care about the Raikage. I don't care about anything beyond the first 100 chapters of Naruto at this very point in the story. Now, here's the issue. We know for a fact that the version 2 curse mark is an amp of at least 10 times. We know that the V2 curse mark is at least a 10 times amp. There is no other interpretation I can give you for this. We know it from Jirobo, and I think we have it from a data book statement. No, we also know it from the Sound Force Shinobi, Sukkon and Ukon These Nuts. We know it from them because they said that their chakra also multiplies tenfold when they... Where the fuck is the Choji fight? Ah, right. Yeah, he says right here that his power is 10 times what it was before. So it clearly can't be that this curse mark is giving him. So what is the problem exactly? I can help find a solution. It's one of two things. It's one of two things that I am currently having an issue with, right? Here's the problem. Let me just erase the rest of this, right? Okay. With his weights. If Sasuke is at least as fast as Lee, as base Lee, with weights, then the curse mark amp, the first curse mark amp, has to be 10 times in order for him to evade. Technically more, but I'm going by like a bare minimum. Didn't Kidomaru get 10 times something? I don't, it's not Kidomaru, it was Sakan and Ukon. They were the ones that said that their chakra, reserves also increase tenfold when they get the, when they utilize the version 2 curse mark. Has to be a 10 times amp for him to evade, Zaku's supersonic attack on a low ball, right? It has to be at least a 10 times amp, which is contradicting, which contradicts the V2 curse mark amp, a 10 times amp, right? Yeah, this shouldn't follow. I don't see it being a problem with it being, this should follow. Except again, that's the problem. This isn't a curse mark. This isn't a version 2 curse mark. Unless you somehow believe, I guess the argument would then have to be, you have to believe that the version 2 curse mark, the V2 curse mark is straight up, or sorry, not the V2 curse mark. This first utilization of the curse mark has to then be as great as a V2 amp. You can probably argue that it's like a destabilized version, but I just don't see that necessarily being the case. It looks inconsistent to me. So either the speed scaling is just straight up inconsistent, looks like a manga contradiction. Is there any middle ground where V2 stays but the Lee still works? Or is it one or the other? It has to be one or the other. Because you can't give Lee... Does Guy explicitly say that the first gate allows you to use 100% of your muscles? If not, you can just argue the amp is lower. You can definitely argue that the amp is lower. However, it then creates a bit of an issue. And I think that there's definitely an argument for this, right? There's definitely an argument for this because the gates specifically, Guy makes a comment on the strength of the... on being able to use the full strength of the muscles. And the first gate of opening simply allows one to remove mental inhibitions. But mental inhibitions could be described as the mental block that Guy does bring up, right? Not here. My bad. Not here. Let's go back. It kind of boils down to two things, right? Normally, the human beings can utilize 20% of their muscles being able to use it. The muscles themselves would break down, so the brain sets a limit, right? So one could argue that that falls under the idea of those inhibitions, right? That it falls under the inhibitions. But then the second gate of healing, located in the right brain, increases the user's physical strength, right? So you can also argue that it's the second gate that is the one that's increasing your power fivefold instead of the first gate. But again, that it just then boils down to one or the other, and it creates a bit of an issue. A 10 times amp, Gear 4 is a 3 times, so it's still 30 times. Again, I don't care about One Piece right now, known test. I don't care about any of that. Couldn't you argue contextually Curse Mark V2 is a 10 times amp on top of the V1 amp? Not necessarily, because I don't believe Jirobo was using, you could contextually argue that it could be a 10 times amp beyond what it was before. Let me bring up the Sakon and Ukon statement. Let me bring that one up. It's not here. Assassination skill, the Keira Kuke. Ah, shit. All right, let me find it. Let me move up real quick. You could definitely argue it if it's contextual of that, but I have to, like, then cross-reference it with the Sakon and Ukon statement. So now I have to find when the fuck Heba starts their fight. Let's go, like, here. None of this matters, Gojo. I don't care. I don't care about Gojo right now. I don't care about jokes, then none of that shit means anything to me right now. I know, I'm just saying that 10 times is a bigger amp, but Gear 4 still wouldn't apply. Wouldn't it apply for... No, that's irrelevant to me. If it's something for One Piece, I don't care what it has anything to do with Naruto. One Piece and Naruto are completely different stories written by completely different authors. You can't make any argument that because something works in Naruto, it should work in One Piece and vice versa. That's not... I don't agree with that kind of logic. You could say that Sasuke focused his chakra on his feet alongside with the Curse Mark General Boost. Even Sakura amped her speed by focusing chakra on her feet against Ino. You can definitely argue that, but it kind of just boils down to, again, an interpretation that kind of is based on nothing besides, well, Sasuke amped his speed at one point, and then he's amping speed at another point, right? I don't know. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that. You could say that V1 is a 10 times amp, and V2 is a 10 times amp on top of that. Yeah, 6 just said that. I'm trying to find a specific statement that correlates to that, because it would clarify it. It would initially clarify it on its own. But, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that for 2 reasons that I'll get into it in a bit. Let's see. Either way, I find Naruto is inconsistent. Yeah, I got you. I got you in just a second. Took in multiple fists. My brother's asleep. Meet my brother. There's no time, Sakon. I'll die. Impetuous. I could see the situation is hopeless. Pierces the jutsu, won't be able to use it. Alright. Wolf Fang. Yeah. They do the thing. Drool. Yeah. Muscle power isn't one-to-one with speed, so you could still argue that it doesn't amp speed to the same degree as strength. You could argue it, but then the speed scaling is completely unquantifiable. I think Jirobo, we already covered the Jirobo statement. I already have that one up. Fang over Fang, violent, direct hit, full blast. I think split us off. I think we were trying only body, Akamaru. We were following our noses to track the scent. No use in hiding. Again, my eyes, it took the blow for me, using me as a shield. The Keirakuke draws in. Cruel way of doing it. He sacrificed himself. Don't die with me. Are you crazy? Merit inside being attacked by your opponent's body. Yup, it's the Sharingan. I'm losing blood. Abandon the smut. A smoke bomb. Still breathing. It's enough. Setting a trap. Causing a loud voice. I still must die. Where the fuck is that statement, dude? Like this. I know we found that statement at some point. I know I'm not making it up. There's definitely a Sakon and Ukon statement. This is the Shikamaru stuff. I don't think I care about anything here. None of it really implies a statement of any kind. According to plan, I hate to admit it. I can't be forced. I never thought I'd be forced to use the second state. Because it's one of 2 things. It's either it's a 10 times amp to base, or the curse mark in and of itself. The curse mark, $10. Gears actually stated to be 7 times amp. His limit pre-gear 4 to gear. His limit is 3 times beyond the combined amp of gear 4 to gear 5. Yeah, I do agree that it's an amp beyond 2nd gear and 3rd gear. I agree that it is an amp beyond that, and I will be explaining that in the video. By the way, thank you, Gygus, for the $10. Guys, can we please get some W's? Can we please get some W's for Gygus? Some W's, please. Where the fuck was the thing? Okay, right here. Okay, I don't care about any of this. Yeah, Rock Lee. If it's not specifically Kiba. Oh, that's why it's taking so long. My bad. I gotta switch back to... Okay, scumbag. Who's safe? It's hard to sense. You erased your sign. Impressive. What about my idea? I'm sorry. I think it's one or the other. V2 takes priority as it directly stated, while V1 is a community calc. No, the V1 is a community calc. And the reason why I have an issue with stating that it's a 10 times amp on top of a second 10 times amp is because Sage Mode in of itself is only a 10 times amp. And it's the only time that we technically have a direct reference to V2. The other issue with it being a cumulative amp, thank you for supporting the creator, only one of the good cross scalers. Oh, I appreciate that. The other reason why I kind of have an issue with this is because Naruto eventually does fight Sasuke, obviously in Sasuke Retrieval, and Naruto's, Naruto gets stronger using the, as Naruto does get stronger, we do see, while he's using, like, the Kyuubi cloak, etc., we do see that as Naruto gets the one-tailed cloak, Sasuke is still not able to keep up with him, even with the regular amp from the curse mark. Sasuke has to use the 10 times amp from the V2 curse mark in order to keep up with Naruto. That's what gets this version to even remotely be 10 times in the first place. Wait, why is Sage Mode only a 10 times amp? 10 times amp? Because it's essentially stated in a data book right here. Jiraiya. Giant flame bomb right here. After filling his mouth with oil inside of his body from Sage Jutsu Chakra, the caster sprays the oil out as he ignites the fire style technique. The flames are more than 10 times as large as flame bombs. That's kind of the only thing I have. I found the statement saying they have 10 times more chakra. Which page is it in, Skittle? I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Where's the statement at, please? Definitely use V2 and call it an inconsistency. I wouldn't count both. That it would be boosting Naruto based on chapter 203. So I was near it. I just completely... I must have just skipped through it. So V1 Sasuke's faster than first Gate Lee. He doesn't necessarily have to be faster than Gate 1 Lee. It just implies that he would have to be at least as fast. He would just have to be... Not at least as fast, because he's technically... both of them can still blitz Saku and Dosu. That's not necessarily a big thing. It's more so them saying that... Well, yeah, actually, no, yeah. By Dosu's statement, it would have to be faster. So what's the situation about? I got you right here. Dozu's statement implies that Rock Lee's movements are fast, but theirs are supersonic, so Mach 5 to Mach 2 to 5. Therefore, Lee must be at least Mach 1. The problem, Lee with the primary Lotus, with the first gate, using the first gate, is 5 times faster than base Lee with weights. If Sasuke is at least as fast as base Lee with weights, then the first curse mark amp has to be 10 times in order for him to evade Saku's supersonic attack on a low ball, which contradicts the V2 curse mark, which is a 10 times amp, because Sasuke would have to at least, isn't that mistranslated? Also, doesn't say more than 10 times. Yes, but I have nothing else to go off of other than 10 times. I have nothing else to go off of. I'm not going to say 11 times. I'm not going to say 12 times. I'm going to stick to 10 times because it is the only value I can provide. Another mistake or inconsistency? Who would have thunk? Genuinely the worst data books I've ever seen next to Dragon Ball? Probably. Triple kick, field of power now. There's no more time. Second activate, impetuous brother. You're saying the horns are fake. Hopelessly showed up. Now Sakon has 10 times more chakra. Yeah. Thank you so much. I was just reading through it too fast. Thank you so much. I'm just going to save these right here just for now so I have an idea, and then I'll go back to this when I get around to this point. So, okay. Give me a second. Let me pull up a notes app real quick. Notes. Notes. Main width. What the fuck is this? Oh, this is for the emulator. Right. Okay, that was for the emulator. YouTube video description. That's where I fucking hit that. Okay. Like deck list? What's this? Align emulator. Yeah, that's just emulator shit. I don't care about any of that. Okay. So, okay. Let's cover a couple of things real quick. File. How do I fuck with the fonts real quick? Because I want to make this. Okay. So. All of this might go into the video, by the way, but okay, so... Possible interpretations, right? No, I just need all of possible interpretations, right? So, the statement from Guy specifies that the human body, can only use 20% of their full potential. It could specify only strength and not speed, but then we have no way to quantify the amp in speed. I'll read what you guys say in a second. Then we have no way to quantify the on speed. The statement could also be in reference to the second gate that on rejuvenating the body and increasing physical strength, but it wouldn't make any sense. Doesn't correlate with the primary lotus, and the first gate releases mental inhibitions. The description. The V2 cloak, V2 curse mark could be a 10 times amp. The V2 curse mark could be a 10 times amp. Oh, Jeff, thank you so much for the 19 months. Holy shit, both physical and mental are good. I'm not eating beans. I'm definitely not going to eat beans. Personally, for me, the full potential means all stats, IQ, skills, all the second gate basically acts as a limited healing factor. I don't get what contradicts V2 being 10 times V1. Oh, I got you right now. What contradicts V2 being stronger than V1 is that, on average, it is normally considered... The one-tailed cloak is normally considered to be equal to the V2 cloak, which is a 10 times amp, right? The V1 cloak would be equal to the V2 cloak, which is a 10 times amp. We have this idea that the, because of a specific statement from... Sorry. Let me... compress V2 Sasuke? I don't know. In order for the V2 cloak, if the V2 cloak is 10 times stronger V1, cool, then what's the amp for V1? If you were to try to argue that the V1 cloak is at least a 10 times amp because Sasuke is now capable of blitzing a Mach 2 attack when he couldn't even react to a Mach 1 attack, then that would mean that the V1 amp is a 10 times amp. But that wouldn't make any sense because that would mean that V2 overall is a 100 times amp to base form, which would make it far greater than even Sage Mode, than even Perfect Sage Mode, which is at least a 10 times amp based on a data book statement. That doesn't make any sense. You could probably try to argue that this is consistent with a with a statement from the novels that says that the full power of the Nine Tails, a cloak that a guy was able to get using Nine Tails chakra pills from the full Nine Tails, gives him orders of magnitude, but orders of magnitude on a low end is just 100 times, maybe 1,000 times, but that would just mean that. But that would then mean that a single cloak from the Nine Tails is a 100 times amp, which is not consistent with the rest of the story. Especially since that would mean that a 4 Tails amp, which I don't even know how, which would mean that wait, I'm still, isn't it the fate, isn't it? I don't know, the fact that the curse mark doesn't amp all stats, just amps something in particular. No, it amps all stats. It doesn't just amp one stat. So talking about V1 inconsistencies and how it should make it work scaling wise. it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't personally make any sense to me for it to be that powerful, especially when Naruto, when the strength that Naruto gets from the one-tailed cloak, sorry, not from the one-tailed cloak, should be 3 to 5 times. Why do I say it's 3 to 5 times? Specifically because of Kakashi and the Fourth Great Ninja War, where Kakashi makes a comment on the cloaks that the Shinobi Alliance gets. The cloaks that the Shinobi Alliance gets are essentially 3 times greater than the amount of chakra that he got from the Nine Tails when Naruto sent him in. That whole misconception that people bring up, let me see if I can find it first. Not this, not this, that. Where the fuck does, not here. Okay. Link me with Kakashi. Okay. Okay. It's a lot stronger than it was that it was a lot stronger and more of it than last time, right? Right there, and then when does Naruto get Kakashi sent into the Kamui dimension? It's around when does Kakashi pop back out? It's before that. When the fuck does Kakashi teleport back? It has to be before Madara shows up, right? It would have to be. But this is when Obito has his thing pop out. Yeah. If V1 is 5 times, then V2 is 2 times over V1. Hold on. No, because when he gets teleported in... Yeah. Ah! Right here. Right here. Okay. Kakashi makes a comment. Kakashi makes a specific comment on there being a lot more, and it's stronger than the last time. There's something I want to confirm regarding the intel from the last battle. Kakashi, you said that the reason why you were able to travel through through space-time using Kamui plus pull the Eight Tails in and out almost whole was thanks to receiving Nine Tails chakra from Naruto. Though, to be completely accurate, I received the chakra directly from the Nine Tails. In reference to your choice of words, how different was it from the Kamui, was it using Kamui compared to the Nine Tails chakra? Could you explain to me in simple terms? I would say more than 3 times the power. I couldn't really hurl things that large or done often before that, right? So the argument here is that, the chakra that Kurama gave Kakashi, is at least 3 times the chakra that they gave the rest of the Shinobi Alliance, right? So if the chakra is at least relative to 3 times the amount of chakra that he gave to the rest of the Alliance, then that would mean that Naruto's Naruto's one-tailed form would be at least 3 or 5 times greater, depending on how you choose to perceive it, in comparison to its normal form, right? So it kind of creates this bit of a weird, it kind of creates like just this bit of a weird scaling dilemma, where you have 2 different kinds of interpretations based on how much stronger you think Naruto gets, based on this form, and this form. Based on this form and this form. I have a massive issue that embarrassed Sasuke, which seemed to was relative or equal to One-Tailed. To be honest, okay, what are you guys? I'm sorry, I gotta go back so I can see what you guys are saying. Then definitely use V2 and call it an inconsistency. I wouldn't call it both. I wouldn't count both, but that would be boosting Naruto based on an author's mistake. Well, it doesn't really boost Naruto that much, all things considered, because Naruto is never once inherently Naruto is never once inherently as fast as Sasuke or Lee. He's never really as fast as they are without using the Nine Tails chakra. Is the option of just going through the statements disregarding the moments which contradict if they are that absurd, of course. We mentioned in the video, but it don't work. Yeah, what was your reasoning for not being 10 times on top of V1? I missed that. My reasoning for not being on top of V1 is that it doesn't make sense with the rest of the metrics, such as Sage Mode, because Sage Mode is only a 10 times amp, yet it, at least as far as the increase in strength that Naruto seems to get from Sage Mode in comparison to, you know, all of his other states, or at least the other states comparative in the series, the 10 times amp from Sage Mode just does not make sense to me for it to just be a 10 times amp. So the issue is that, is it V1 is 10 times and V2 is 10 times, then One-Tailed is 100 times? Yes, I disagree with One-Tailed Naruto being 100 times of an increase. It just does not make any sense to me whatsoever. Do I understand that correctly, or did I mess up? Exactly that. It also creates an inconsistency with Sage Mode, because Sage Mode is essentially equivalent to the V2 cloak. Sage Mode is essentially an equivalent to a V2 cloak, and it's a narrative equivalent based on the 4th Great Ninja War, where, are there other topics we will discuss after this? No, this is all I'm focusing right now, because this is kind of like my problem right now with the script, right? This is currently my problem right now with the script. I'm like 13, close to 4. I'm around 14 pages into the script right now. Speaking of V1, I'm ready this time for the boys. I actually wrote things down this time. Y'all better not fuck with me. Each tail being a 10 times amp makes sense. Each tails being a 10 times addition to base makes sense. Each tails being a 10 times amp to an exponential degree does not make sense. Because if that makes sense to you, then Orochimaru with an old sick body that is rejecting him is 10,000 times stronger than base Naruto, and again, that just does not make sense. Yeah, no, this is absolutely fucking inconsistent for me. It'll make more sense if I go through the entire line of logic, though I don't want to read the script out for you guys yet. I went through it with one of my mods yesterday. They did say that I basically covered every point I needed to cover, but it's the fact that Sasuke blitzes Dozu that makes it a bit of an issue. Because, okay, I'll just be clear right here. I think that Naruto gaining chakra from Kurama, this version of Naruto gaining chakra from Kurama, I mean, it kind of does. Orochimaru slams Naruto at that point. Yes, but he doesn't slam Naruto to a 10,000 times difference. The tail is no longer 10 times in Shippuden because Naruto's base is stronger. It's additive, not a multiplier. I don't know why Naruto's base getting stronger would change the multiplier being 10 times. I don't understand why it would change the multiplier. It's not like the multiplier gets you to a specific... So for you to believe that, that means that One-Tailed from the 10 tails will always get you to a specific level of power regardless of your base strength. That doesn't make any sense to me. Addition, so 10 times base for each tail. No. I know what you mean, Evil Eddie. I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, you can believe that he... I mean, you could say that you don't see why he wouldn't. I don't believe it to even remotely make any sense. I don't think multipliers is existing Naruto, in my opinion. That's completely fine, but it would be inconsistent with some data book statements and some potential statements from like light novels and shit. I'm trying. This is the only multipliers are the only way to quantify increases in strength. He's saying V1 and V2 would be 100 times off of base, while Sage Mode is just a 10 times base. 10 plus 10 is a 2 times increase. 15 plus 10 is less than a 2 times increase. So the base strength changes the multiplier. How does that even remotely relate to anything that I'm talking about? How does that even remotely relate to what I'm talking about? I don't understand your point, Cameron. We don't do that here. Do we have a statement that the statement for the chakra increases of Sage Mode, or is it just... Yeah, it's just that Jiraiya uses his fire style, and the fact that both... It's just Jiraiya using his fire style, and the fact that both Sage Mode and the version 2 curse marks are essentially both utilize nature energy to similar degrees. They both essentially utilize nature energy, though you can argue Sage Mode is a much more refined version of it. Which, again, is at best 10 times, based on Jiraiya's statement. I don't see how this relates to it. I don't, because the assumption for this essentially focuses on the idea that regardless of how strong Naruto is, the amp from the tails will always get him to the same level of strength, and I don't agree with that, because that would mean that Naruto post time skip with a one-tailed cloak is just as powerful as Naruto pre-time skip with the same cloak. Old nerfed Orochimaru being 10,000 times beyond base Naruto Tenchi Bridge arc is laughable. I know his post-time skip games were, but this is getting into slander territory. Yeah, I don't see how it makes sense. I don't see why he wouldn't. My question is, why would he? Why would Orochimaru be over 10,000 times stronger than Naruto while technically missing his arms, his real arms, and also having a body that's rejecting him? Like, I don't know, man. It just seems completely fallacious to me. There's nothing in the series that adds up to it, and, I mean, Sage Mode alone... I mean, Orochimaru with his arms was weaker than Pain, and Sage Mode alone is only a 10 times amp, which means Naruto would have had to have gotten over 100 times stronger. Sorry, no. Over 1,000 times stronger through the Rasen Shuriken training alone in order to even make up the strength difference. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense. Orochimaru cannot be 10,000 times stronger than Naruto. The multipliers cannot be exponential. It just does not make sense. All of this could be avoided by not counting V1 due to it being extensively inconsistent. And that's the thing. I'm willing to call it inconsistent. You're getting these values from the data books. No, I'm getting the values from the data books, the comparison of the transformations, the technically a light novel statement. No, it wouldn't. The example leads to the power level of 20 versus 25. But again, you're giving me random shit that, again, listen, this whole idea of like power level of 20 versus 25, that doesn't mean anything to me. We're not talking about power levels within the context of Naruto. In Naruto, they don't have power levels. There's no way of quantifying it. There's just, what is the multiplier that increases the power? What it assumes is that the tail amps by the same amount, which makes it less relevant as Naruto gets stronger. How does it make it less relevant as Naruto gets stronger? Because again, your position boils down to the idea that a single tail makes Naruto this amount strong, so no matter how strong Naruto is, the tailed amp would only make him that powerful. That doesn't make any sense. What if Naruto's base is already stronger than what a one-tailed amp would make him? So then he just doesn't get stronger? That's what that logic follows. That's why it doesn't make any sense. But if you leave out V1, no matter how justified, people will screech and bark about it. That's my problem. If I don't bring up the V2 version of Sasuke that blitzes Zaku, then somebody's gonna bring it up in the comments, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. If I actually sat down, there is a reason why. Everything from this point right here, there's a reason why everything from this point right here up until this point right here, which is 4 to 8, almost 8 pages, is all consistently just Land of Waves. I am covering everything in Land of Waves. Yes, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I am legitimately stuck between a rock and a hard place. And Sailor Diamond, how's it going? I disagree entirely. Bleach is 10 times harder to scale than Naruto. Bleach is way fucking more inconsistent than Naruto. During the bridge arc, definitely would have lost to any Sanin. Yes, I agree. He 100% would have lost to any Sanin during Tenchi Bridge. You keep strawmanning me. I'm never saying that it brings him to the same level. I said the power increases the same amount. Those are two different positions. Okay, so if the power increases the same amount, then Naruto's getting stronger regardless. It doesn't matter. I don't see what your point is. Because if Naruto's getting stronger, then if he's using a one-tailed... Listen, if Naruto's using a one-tailed cloak as a kid, and he's using a one-tailed cloak as an adult, then yes, the one-tailed cloak would still be stronger regardless. If Sage Mode being lower than V2 is contradictory, couldn't you just disregard the data book and give Sage Mode a 100 times amp? Then I'm disregarding the data book and I'm giving Sage Mode a bullshit amp for no reason. And mind you, let me ask you this. Does Sage Mode, especially within a clash between Naruto and Pain, right? It doesn't even make any sense for it to be 100 times amp, especially visually. And I know visuals are entirely up for interpretation, but explain to me how it would even remotely make any sense to argue that Sage Mode, especially, let's say, post Rasen Shuriken, it doesn't even make any sense to me for Sage Mode to be 100 times amp, considering that Naruto's still able to keep up with Pain hand to hand, and then after getting Sage Mode back, he just sends Pain flying. Well, flying as in, I don't know, like a 10 meters, right? Like, how does Naruto becoming 100 times stronger? How does Naruto being 100 times weaker than he was before only result in Pain being knocked back this far? Yeah, but adult Naruto wouldn't get 10 times stronger for the cloak because he's way beyond that level. No, if Naruto as an adult uses a one-tailed cloak, he is still only getting 10 times stronger. Why would he not get 10 times stronger for the cloak? What is the logic behind Naruto not becoming more powerful within the context of the story? I don't care about opinions, I don't care about interpretations, I don't care about mental gymnastics. If Naruto as an adult uses a one-tailed cloak, he is still going to get the same amount of power that he would have gotten as a child. The amp is still the same. The amp is consistently still the same. There is no you would have to show me something in the series that completely contradicts that. If you have nothing in the series that contradicts that, it essentially means nothing. Can't even think of a solution for this. You might just have to address this as an inconsistency and come to a reasonable conclusion. That's my thing, but that's the problem. I can't come to a reasonable conclusion. A reasonable conclusion. I'll just give you what I've got written right now, right? I'll just give you guys what I've got written right now. Okay. Let me just read this throughout for you guys. Where is it? As we progress throughout the video, you'll notice that a lot of the feats in Naruto are simply unquantifiable due to a lack of statements or comparative feats. Even in the War Arc, the ice mirrors are never broken by any character, so there's, oh wait, no, this is just for later. Now, if we're talking about the second and third rounds, which do encompass the first 100 chapters of Naruto, the larger bulk of Naruto's feats start to show up around this time. This is also around the point in time where Kishimoto starts to give us a baseline for how fast the characters potentially are, specifically the Genin. You can't bring up the visual argument at all. I know I can't bring up a visual argument at all. I know that. He's getting less. How is he getting less than 10 times? The one-tailed cloak is ass. The amp is the same. It's less relevant because Naruto is stronger. Okay, prove it. Prove that he gets strong, weaker. Prove that he gets strong, less than 10 times stronger. Then, where in the series is it stated or shown to me that? Prove it then. If you're gonna say that he's getting less than 10 times stronger from a one-tailed cloak, you're gonna have to prove it. I don't care about what your reasoning is. Just prove it. I would go with the V2 as a fact and ignore or change V1 and say that it's a wholly inconsistent in the manga and the community scale to begin with. So author error. I think I might have to go with that specifically because we know for a fact that Kishimoto doesn't plan too far ahead, especially since Sasuke was essentially added into the series already after technically after the series was already serialized. Sasuke was added afterwards, right? So you could technically make the argument that the amp is crazy. The tail amps never get weaker. You missed the super chat, by the way, did I? Oh shit, Geigus, thank you so much for the 5. Holy shit. Does SSJ multiplier go down as Goku gets stronger in base? No, it does not. The Super Saiyan multiplier never gets weaker. If anything, you could argue it gets stronger. What I think Cameron is trying to say is that the amp doesn't multiply as power, but adds power. Like if Naruto's base is at 100, the amp adds 25, and then later adds his base. Later his base is 200. The amp is still... Yes, and I get where that's coming from. I understand where that's coming from, but then I have nothing to base it off of then, because I have nothing to base Naruto's base speed or base strength to. That's my problem. That's the problem. I have nothing to base it off of if it is just a 10 times amp of Naruto's current abilities down to his base form. I have nothing, absolutely nothing to base it off of at that point. There is nothing for me to base it off of at that point. I essentially just have to say that that the increase is 10 times, but then it's less than 10 times as the series progresses. It just doesn't make sense, and there's really not much for me to add on as far as the series goes in terms of tangible examples or actual statements. It's essentially one of those arguments that is born from a line of logic that could make sense. I'm not saying that it cannot make sense. I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. Then you say you have nothing, bro. That's fine. Shit can be unquantifiable outside of part 1. And that's fine. It can be unquantifiable outside of part 1, but it doesn't lead to a culminating conclusion, especially as I'm going through the rest of the video. Anyway, right here I say, it's in this arc that we introduced to a fan-favorite character, Rock Lee, and probably one of the most underutilized characters in the entire story, Rock Lee. This underdog helps establish a couple of things about the speed scaling of the series through both his encounter with Sasuke and his later fights against the Sound Ninja. He's capable of blitzing Sasuke with the speed of his kicks to the point that even Sasuke thought he could block an attack, When Sasuke thought he could block an attack, Lee was fast enough to still land the blow directly to his face, even while his guard was zapped, inherently implying far faster combat speed. Inherently implying far faster. Inherently implying far faster combat speed. This forces Sasuke to use his Sharingan for the second time, which has now evolved into its Two-Tomoe state. However, it didn't really amount to much considering that Rock Lee instantly hard speed blitzed and launch Sasuke up into the air in an attempt to perform the primary Lotus. Lee does make a comment on how, even if Sasuke can perfectly perceive and understand his movements, he lacks the speed and strength to actually counter them. So how fast is Lee? We can actually extrapolate an answer from this encounter, against the Hidden Sound Shinobi. During his fight with the ninja Dozu, Lee is capable of performing the primary Lotus after perception blitzing him and then pile driving him into the ground. However, his teammate was capable of making the hand signs necessary as Lee was coming down, and was capable of softening the soil beneath him through the use of sound wave, which he states can crush entire boulders. Now, something that we need to make extremely clear is that Rock Lee isn't capable of entirely acclimating to the physical strength of performing the primary Lotus at this point in the story, and even later during his fight against Gaara. This is true. Rock Lee cannot perform the primary Lotus during these portions of the story without it having some level of feedback. I will say not knowing the amp and chakra for Sage Mode is what we're missing. It's not an issue with the curse mark multiplier, it's just missing intel on a higher form. As far as I'm aware, the amps for gears never get higher besides Gear 5 being Weird Awakening. He just raises the baseline exponentially over time. Here's the thing on why you're wrong. Kishimoto isn't like other manga where you have to look in depth and what's implied. Picture deeper and it's not on the nose. Yeah, I'm just ignoring this. That doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah. Whatever. Lee does make a comment on... during his fight with the Ninja Dosu, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now, something that we need to make extremely clear is that Lee isn't capable of acclimating to the physical strain performing the primary Lotus at this point in the story, and even later during his fight with Gaara. He does verbally state that performing the attack toasted him, which could imply that he is exhausted. During his counterattack, Dozu comments on how Lee may be fast, but their attacks are supersonic, and muscles alone can't break down this wall of sound. The term supersonic can be generally described as the speed of an object traveling faster than the speed of sound. If sound is Mach 1, then the term supersonic can be used to refer to any object traveling at speeds between Mach 2 to Mach 5, with any object traveling at speeds of Mach 5 or higher being classified as hypersonic. If Dosu and Zaku can unleash sound-based attacks that are stated to be supersonic, then they have to be at least Mach 2. I'm sure some of you are wondering why can't we just assume that they are moving at Mach 5 speeds instead, in order to give them as much benefit of doubt. But as I stated in my disclaimer, my personal metric utilizes the bare minimum, which in this case is Mach 2. Now, if you do believe that Mach 5 is the better interpretation to utilize, then Rock Lee's primary Lotus may fall within the supersonic range. However, because of the wording of this statement, that's likely not the case. The best argument one can make for Rock Lee here is, if they were to give him benefit of doubt, is to argue that if Dozu and Zaku are Mach 2 and their attacks are allegedly faster than Lee, he has to be at best, while using the primary Lotus and releasing the first gate of opening, Mach 1 to Mach 1 to 1.9. Mach 1 to Mach 1.9. Any higher interpretation like Dozu and Zaku being on the higher end of supersonic doesn't really help prove that Lee is within the supersonic speeds, because again, the statement specifies that their attacks are supersonic, not Lee's. I know some people like to argue that Lee could have dodged the attack if he could have seen it, but because they were sound waves, he obviously wouldn't know how or when to dodge. And though I think it's somewhat reasonable conclusion to come down to, it doesn't really prove that Lee could have dodged their attacks if we saw them coming, because nothing really backs it up. At least up until this point, there really aren't any statements or feats that can help promote this idea that Rock Lee can move faster than the speed of sound, unless we give him every benefit of doubt alongside Dozu and Zaku. Within the context of Naruto, the human body is limited to only being capable of using no more than 20% of the body's muscular energy. By learning to use the 8 inner gates, one can draw out 100% of that strength of their muscles in order to perform grueling and demanding tasks at incredible speeds. Literally taken from the manga. Under the assumption that the first gate allows the user to utilize 100% of their muscle strength, would mean that Lee gets at least 5 times stronger and faster after opening it in order to perform the primary lotus. So by that logic, if he's at the very most Mach 1 or the speed of sound while performing this technique, then his base speed should be anywhere around 68.6 meters per second or 153 miles per hour. Listen, I'm aware that some of you, that to some of you it might sound absolutely insane that Rock Lee isn't faster than the speed of sound, but there's not much else that I can utilize up until this point, and I'm also trying to create a baseline for how fast Lee should be. How fast he should be at the very least. How fast Lee should be, so I can come down to a conclusion on how fast Naruto is. I'm not even trying to argue that this is Lee's top speed. As we progress to later portions of the Chunin exams, specifically Lee's fight with Gaara, we get an even higher speed scale for the character. The speed arguments are consistent, but we aren't given full intel. The Abisu tart can be used as an explain. The chakra amps would manifest the same results for everyone. Not necessarily. Was good, Chad. In a cool-ass hotel before my 13-hour flight to Kenya. Holy shit, Lapis, you're going to Kenya? Yo, best of luck, man. Reason why I said that is it has to do with the speed thing, being sound meta with Rock Lee. There's a lot more material to get Rock Lee higher. I'm aware of that, Monk of the Gold. I'm trying to cover all of my bases by first talking about early shit. I've been listening to his Power Scaling Ramblings for years. Trust me, he was born for this. What are you talking about? What are we talking about? I lost my perms in We Two Are Awkward Fellow. Alright. Your mother has supersonic attack speed. Ha 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 ha. Got him. Yeah, you got me. So. Okay. There's a couple of other things that I can cover within the series. Now, there's, again, a couple of other things that I can cover. And I know that some people are going to bring up the higher speed metas like Rock Lee blitzing Gaara's Sand, which is at the very least... Mach 5 to Mach 10, depending on explosions. But there's a couple of things that I have to go into that. For example, the sand that Gaara could summon was basically all around their feet. You could see it when they threw... you could see it when some shuriken were thrown at Gaara, that there was no sand beneath him, but then sand just randomly came out of the ground, which means that the ground that they were standing on has to also be just covered in sand, which means that when the sand blocked the explosion, I'm not saying that it can't be Mach 5, but what I am saying is that within the context of the scene, if there was already sand on the ground, or they were already standing on top of sand, the sand had a much closer distance to cover than anything else, since it was already all around Gaara. So I can't necessarily put it at anything higher than the speed of an explosion, because again, the sand was already there. All I had to do was just cover Gaara up from it. Number 2, Lee blitzing the sand only really happens when he unlocks when he removes his weights. And assuming that removing his weights multiplies his speed 5-fold, which I think is completely reasonable, that would mean 5 to 6 times, allowing him to, wouldn't the sand still have to go and wrap around Gaara? Not necessarily if it only has to cover the front of him. Not necessarily if it only has to cover the front of him, and again, I can't quantify how fast it is. I can only tell you at least how fast it should be. I'm not giving you some higher end speed meta. I'm giving you how fast it should at the very least be. I'm not going to give you anything like, oh, it should be Mach 6 or Mach 7. I'm not giving you any of that crap. Ha ha ha, funny jokes. I'm just giving you the very least it should be. Where the fuck is the Gara stuff? Explosion. I know the Gara stuff should be... Where is Gara's pass? Yeah, right here. You can very much see that the sand, even though it looks like it's not sand, the sand is already on the ground. The sand is already around them. They are literally standing on a roof that is covered in sand. You can see it's still coming from the ground. So where Gara is right there on the ground, when Gara is right there on the ground and the explosion happens, you can quite literally just argue the sand popped up and covered the outer layer. Because it doesn't even have to cover the entirety of it. It just has to cover... It just has to cover Gara from the front. Have fun, Eon, heading down the subway. Don't stress yourself out. Using Dory, I can see you. Kid Heart did kill Gozu. Yeah. Also, have you seen Memento and Gaga's? I've said the same thing. Sound is an emission of vibrations and disturbances, so would he not be able to feel said air disturbances and react? No replied. It's just a theory. If it's not implied, it's not an idea that I'm really willing to conceive, right? That's a theory, I must add, not an actual argument. Now, I brought up the gear growth for Luffy. He's better than him using air and amps, but yeah. It's gonna be long as fuck. Yeah, best of luck with the 13-hour flight. That shit's gonna suck. I've been on a 10-hour flight when I was super sick. That shit sucks, dude. Okay. And I'm assuming that by, like, the Ibisu stuff that you're talking about, you're referring to some of the comments he makes to Naruto in regards to, this right here, where he's able to also pour it into... Lee's using 30% of his stamina for the taijutsus, or I mean, stamina is 70. Yeah, it's still the same amount of energy being expended regardless. It's still the same exact amount of energy. I understand your desire to cover every base, you can argue, but you're also going to have to realize no matter you cover, you're always going to have a problem with your thinking. It's not about finding a problem with my thinking. It's not that. It's that I'm trying to find an argument that could work best, but I think the best thing I can go off of is this being an inconsistency, or arguing that Sasuke is physically faster than Rock Lee, at least with weights and in base. So no gates, no weights. You can probably make the argument that Sasuke is either faster than Rock Lee in terms of movement speed, in terms of burst movement speed, like he was with Haku, with a combination of the moves, but it's a bit rough. I've been thinking Isho can bypass infinity with gravity. Kuma, Blackbeard, yeah. Fair enough, though. Fair play, though. I'm just trying to give Naruto a chance since Luffy wins the 1v1. Luffy wins the 1v1 in every round. Luffy wins the 1v1 in every round. Naruto has nothing. Like, as I've been reading through this arc, Naruto, quite literally, first round is just essentially a formality. Naruto doesn't do anything. I would say do it as you want, but explain it well, or the comments will moan. That's kind of my problem right now, right? I am going to talk about the explosion that Sasuke dodges. I am going to talk about the explosion that Rock Lee and Gaara deal with, etc., etc. I'm going to deal with all of those things, but I first have to establish this bit of an inconsistency. It is capable of speed blitzing Gaara's sand, which is considered his one of his ultimate defenses. 1 second. You see, within the context of the manga, in the context of the series, context of Gaara's flashback. What the fuck was his name? At least not as bad as Reito, not too second strongest this time. Does anybody know what the comment? Does anybody know what the guy? What's the name of Gaara's uncle? What's the name of Gaara's uncle? Yashamaru. Okay. Flashback. Yashamaru uses explosive tags that he had concealed within his shinobi vest in order to assassinate Gaara. Gaara's sand was capable of blocking the explosion entirely, which does imply that it should be anywhere around Mach 5 to Mach 10 in terms of speed. I'm going to assume that it is at... Explosion entirely. Hold on. Blocking the explosion. The average explosion is generally considered to be somewhere around Mach 5 to Mach 10, which is the value that I'm going to be moving forward. Moving forward for both series to maintain a baseline Gaara's uncle is this guy, Yashimaru, which I thought was a woman for like the longest time, but he's his mom's brother. 2 ways to scale Kaido being ACOC, yeah. I don't really get what's the confusion on Luffy becoming stronger. It's clearly portrayed Luffy kept okay surpassing Gears, and Gears obviously get amped more. I agree, but I agree with you people. My opinion is just either stubborn or just waiting for the ceiling of the One Piece verse. I was talking about Ichigo. They said that with the word limit, but you do get my theory. Okay. How do we? Yes, that is a guy. That is a man. Okay, Gaara's flashback. Maintain a baseline for both series. Now, this does imply that the sand in and of itself is... Now, this does imply that the sand in and of itself... Sand in of itself should also be anywhere around that Mach 5 to Mach 10 range. I realize that to many people it should be considerably faster, because it did block an explosion. However, I want to make it clear that I'm going to go with the bare minimum value of the explosion, to reiterate that my metric tries to make as little assumptions as possible on my end, so I'm going to keep the speed of the sand to a similar value as the object that it blocked. Now, this feat to many is extremely impressive, especially if you go by calcs, but one thing that people often fail to consider is that within the context of the roof they are standing on is entirely covered in sand. You can see this with other panels where Gaara's sand is entirely covered, comes out of the ground beneath them in different locations. So the sand blocking the explosion isn't really that much faster in my opinion, since it was already underneath Gaara and just had to sprout upwards in order to block it. Took off a bit. In my opinion, I can't argue it objectively, but it makes sense since Gear 2 isn't like Ichigo said 10 times beyond. I see where you're coming from. Okay. Let's see. I'm also aware that there is a specific scene that where Sasuke allegedly dodges an explosive paper bomb from one of the first opponents that he combats during the Forest of Death. However, this scene does not imply that Sasuke blitzes the explosion, and he verbally states the word ow in a moment of pain. Of implied pain. The anime adaptation actually helps establish that Sasuke, if anything, took at least a partial, either the full brunt of the explosion or a partial brunt of the explosion, or only tanked it to a partial extent, since you can very easily see that
Paper bomb!
he falls down from the tree.
Sorry, this is one test.
Blast.
You fail. Now hand over the scroll or you die.
Now, this does offer better scaling in terms of his durability.
Oh no, you don't!
Depending on how you
Well,
choose to interpret
better
this
late than
scene,
never, I guess.
it'll imply one of two things.
Focus my chakra.
Yo, can we just talk about how insane this shit right here is? Can we just talk about how fucking insane it is
Never.
that Sasuke is just able to fucking catch this with, like, his foot and then just throw it back? Holy shit. I forgot it was, my bad. I forgot it was, I forgot I still had the sound up. I don't have my speakers up, so I can't hear. Bye, Ian. I gotta go to sleep. You might just have to skip CMV1 if you can't come up with a satisfying conclusion. No, the satisfying conclusion is either the speed scaling is all out of whack and it just shoots up entirely, or it just comes out as an inconsistency. I'm sorry. It just comes out as an inconsistency. Anyway, I can't prove it objectively, so it's a nice theory to make sense. By the way, if anybody has anything they'd like to add to anything I'm saying, I'm just using my phone to, like, speech-to-text the fuck out of this. Took either the full brunt of the explosion or only tanked it to a partial extent, since you can very easily see that he falls from the blast. Now, depending on how you choose to interpret this, it'll imply one of two things. Either the explosion is stronger, or either the paper bomb is... Either explosions in Naruto aren't as impressive as real-life explosions, or Sasuke has the clear capacity to tank a small blast straight to the face. Which, at least for the context of this video, I'm willing to agree with the latter. Now, why is all of this important? Simple. Moving back onto Lee, the fact that he's able to speed blitz the sand implies that he should also be anywhere within this Mach 5 to Mach 10 speed range. If you think that the paper bombs explode at a speed of Mach 7, 6, and Rock Lee can move at Mach 7 speeds, you're more than welcome to believe it. Anyway, I just can't prove it. By the way, for those of you that are here, if you guys want to join my Discord server, let me set up a link real quick. Edit invite. No limit. Let me just generate the link. Oh wait. Number of uses. I'll throw in like 25 uses. Why not? Let me copy it. I'll send you guys a link for my open Discord. It's not the paid for Discord, but it is. It's just there for you guys in case you guys want to join. If anybody here hasn't used it yet, let me just pin that for you guys real quick. But anyway, back to my. Let's see. I'm just gonna stick to the broader spectrum of speed. Regardless, This now gives us a clear indication that Rock Lee's weights limit his speed by about 5 times. 5 times bare minimum. Times bare minimum. If you think, especially if you think, okay. Holy nostalgia, Batman. Okay. By about 5 times the bare minimum. So what's the next point? Now the gates, as we progress, do amp the user several times onward. But if I had to be honest, couple this with the dozens of times. Where's the statement? No. Okay. Couple those with the dozens of times statement about the 8 inner gates. And you can quantify Rock Lee to be if the explosion is Mach 5, then why are their calcs putting it at Mach 25? If the explosion that would have taken out Gara is anywhere between Mach 5 to Mach 10, then why are they putting calcs at Mach 29? Because people like to use real-world math and physics in a series that quite literally does not follow real-world math and physics. Then you stop streaming to focus on researching. How much were you able to do off stream? I was able to read the entirety of the pre-time skip of One Piece. It took me a little bit longer than I wanted, honestly. I could have done it in a couple days quicker, but I was able to get done the entirety of the pre-time skip for One Piece, and I started just writing the script immediately. I haven't read the post-time skip of One Piece, but I'm going to be working on it as I move along to like Luffy's end of scaling. I'm going to be working on that. Couple this with the dozen time statements, and you can quantify Rock Lee to be anywhere around 12, Mach 12 to Mach 12 to Mach 96, depending on how powerful you think the... What's the disbelief for the Naruto speed scaling, Royland Buck? What's the downplay? Where exactly have I stated anything incorrect within my scaling? Guys, call me out real quick. Is any of the thing that I've stated even remotely downplay, or is this just a person who, or am I simply not abiding by calcs that have absolutely no weight in? I forgot they kicked me out of the Discord. Yeah, I had a discussion with them about that. You always put them at below FTL, it's crazy. I'm talking about part fucking 1, dude. What the fuck are you on about? Could you not pick up that I'm talking about early Naruto? That I'm talking about Dozu and Zaku? That I'm talking about Rock Lee with and without his weights? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Are you telling me you think they're FTL? You really think they're FTL? In part 1? The fuck are we talking about? I spoke with my mods about that. I wasn't okay with like them necessarily banning you, and especially some of the stuff that they were complaining about. I'm gonna be honest with you, Jeff. I kind of just conceded on it just because I'm like, I'm not trying to like fight you guys on everything, but yeah, really sorry about that, my guy. I really am sorry about that. I did make it clear, and I did set up some new rules with them that like, yo, if we're gonna reach like any conclusion where like you feel like somebody needs to be banned from the server, come to me first or whatever. Oh, I cook. I'm not even remotely talking about, like, I'm not even talking about, like, Endgame Naruto. I think Endgame Naruto is at least within the realm of FTL. I'm not even going to remotely try to argue that they aren't. I'm giving the series the speed scaling that the series is providing for me as a scaler during the early parts of the story, given the information that the story has presented. Okay, So now, moving on from that. You think the first, or depending on how powerful you think, the first 5 gates make him, and how powerful, depending on how powerful you think the first 5 gates make him. However, this specific line of speed scaling doesn't necessarily matter, because Naruto doesn't inherently scale to Lee in terms of speed. Yeah, the whole thing with, like, asking you to change your bio, I told him that shit was absolutely, like... I told him, like, I didn't agree with that whatsoever. I did... that day just wasn't trying to mess with your stuff, just didn't do it at the time because I was getting ready to leave work. That's the thing, like, listen, the whole, like, the whole, like, bio stuff that you have, if you had, like, the bio still to this day, I don't personally care. I don't care what you or anyone else puts in your personal bio, because ultimately that doesn't reflect me or my server whatsoever. What you do with your own personal bio does not reflect me or my server whatsoever. A, and that's what I tried to explain to them. B, it's outside of server shit, and as fucked up as it may sound, I'm not someone who generally cares what a person does outside of my community. I don't listen. As long as you don't bring any type of negative-ass energy into the server, and as long as you're not actually spewing out hate speech, or you're not being an absolute fucking bigot, I genuinely do not give a fiddly fuck what any of you say or do outside of the server. If you guys sit here and say, like, oh, Bleach is, like, the strongest verse in the fucking thing, everyone's a fucking goddamn, everyone's smoking on the craziest pack of whatever the fuck, thinking that blah 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 this or blah 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 that, or you're a fucking idiot or this or that. I don't personally care, dude. Outside of my server, I have no control over what people do. I don't give 2 shits. As long as you're not fondling anybody, being a bigot, or doing any kind of crazy shit, I don't care. I'm just making a baseline thing that, like, I don't care what you guys do outside of my server. I'm not here to police or tell people to do specific things in regards to like what they do in terms of, like, you know, their internet footprint or how they choose to interact with people outside of the community. I don't personally care. If you call somebody an absolute idiot, Neji isn't equal to faster than weightless Lee. Neji and Lee are bridges to the Neji and Lee and Gaara. Okay, so a couple of things. Neji is never once stated to be as fast as Lee. The reason why people assume that he is as fast as Lee is because Lee's never beat him in a fight. But I've also never seen any indication that Lee and Neji have fought while Lee took his weights off. I've never seen it. It's not implied within the story. I don't personally care. You can argue that Neji probably has good enough combat speed. I can grant you combat speed. I will not grant you movement speed. And Naruto only ever started like outpacing Neji when he used like that Kurama cloak, which is like a 2-time use thing. Number 2, Gaara. Gaara is not a speedster. Gaara does not have any good speed scaling. You could try to argue that Gaara clashed with Sasuke's Chidori, but Chidori amps your movement speed. Even then, I have no idea why I would believe that Gaara jumping through the air and Sasuke jumping through the air, all of a sudden, both of them are just like running at like top speed. That doesn't make any sense to me. And 3, and most importantly, when Naruto damages Gaara, it's because Gaara specifically states himself, that he underestimated Naruto, and Naruto only landed it because Naruto only started landing hits because of an explosion to the back, to his lower rear end. Yeah, I was confused since I hardly do anything, especially I'm only active in 2 servers. One with my homies, another one, so I'm hardly ever toxic, but I appreciate the apology. I wasn't mad. Yeah, no, I'm really sorry about that. We did have a back and forth. Them and I genuinely had a back and forth about this for a while. But we kind of settled it, and I told them, like, listen, just don't ban people from the server without either coming to me first about it, or if it's something that is, or if it's like some crazy ass fucking thing outside of the server. And even then, if it's outside of the server, and they're like out here calling someone, like, I don't know, I'm just gonna say, if you were to call somebody retarded in outside of the server for whatever context, that's not my business. That's not my prerogative. I don't care. Genuinely. Again, as long as you're not being a bigot, as long as you're not being a freak to somebody, as long as you're not harassing anybody, I don't genuinely care. And especially if you, as long as you don't show that kind of behavior in my community. Because again, I have no control over what people do inside my community. It's not my business. Sorry, not inside my community, outside of my community. I have no control what people do outside of my community. I can only control the things that are around me. I'm not going to go out of my way to police anybody. That's basically it. And Lonks takes. What are we talking about? Is it a recent video? If it's an old video, probably I don't care about it right now. Old video. Probably watched it already. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. So, what were we at? Because Naruto doesn't inherently scale to Lee in terms of speed. Okay. The usual bridges... The usual line of logic that I see people try to... argue for Naruto being about as fast, if not faster, than his peers is this idea that because Naruto fought and beat Neji and Gaara, then he must be as fast as Sasuke and Lee, even though Naruto is never once described or perceived as a speed-based character like Sasuke and Lee. Naruto rarely ever performs a body flicker-like technique throughout the initial portions of the series, and the only times he really performs something like this is when he's using a Nine-Tails cloak against Neji. And later on against Gaara. No. Sasuke. So another theory, not shocked by Lee's weights, implying that he's familiar with his speed, also implications of Lee saving the gates for Neji. Correct, but that doesn't inherently imply that Neji is either can run as fast as Lee. That doesn't imply that Neji can run as fast as Lee, and it also doesn't imply that Naruto is as fast as Lee, because let's just go over the fight real quick, because I know you're going to keep trying to bring it up, so let me just clear up the fight real quick. Where the fuck is the, not this, not this, not this, not this, not this. I'll keep these up for myself later on. I got you in just a second. Let me pull it up. Let's look at Naruto versus Neji, right? Let's just look at Naruto versus Neji. His speed is never a factor within any of this fights. He's absolutely getting destroyed in every sense of the word. You can argue that Neji's combat speed is relative. You cannot argue that his raw movement speed is, and either way, Neji also has just wanted an opinion. Do you think Sasuke should have kept the curse mark after his fight with Itachi? I don't think so. I think the curse mark I think he was too reliant on the curse mark, and it was a way for Sasuke to finally, like, kind of cleanse himself of, like, that part of the series. As we move on, you can see that no matter what he does, he is consistently getting timed out by Neji. It's not until Naruto gets... Was that a double? Okay, no, it's not. It's not until Neji starts to... Naruto gets the Nine-Tails chakra that he ever even remotely performs. Keyword, that he ever even remotely performs any kind of a body flicker technique. This is the only panel that I've been able to find so far where Naruto has a body flicker-like technique, and Neji is still capable of keeping up with him, so it's not even a matter of speed. You can definitely argue it's more of a matter of power, especially when they clash. But again, Naruto never beats Neji because of speed. The entire context of the fight is never one where Naruto is either outpacing Lee or outpacing Sasuke or even keeping up with them in speed, and there's never an implication that he's even remotely as fast as them. And if we want to talk about, like, Gaara's fight with Sasuke, especially if we want to talk about Gaara's fight with Sasuke, especially during this point, Gaara no longer has his auto defense sand. His sand at this point is no longer defending him completely, and now he's essentially just attacking on his own. I mean, even Sasuke is able to blitz Gaara's attacks, which means that, or evade them, which means that Gaara must not be even as fast as Lee or Sasuke at this point. And the fact that you're saying, okay, but Eon, they're both clearly running at each other. Yes, why would Rock Lee go all out for Neji? He respects Neji. It's not even about him going all out. It's just this idea that why wouldn't he go all out against Neji? Okay, can you prove to me that that Neji can keep up with the primary Lotus? Can you prove to me that at any point in the series is it ever implied that Neji can stop the primary Lotus? Because we know for a fact that Neji can use the chakra around his body to even repel attacks. So it kind of creates, again, a bit of an inconsistency. But even then, even if you wanted to argue, Neji has Mach 5 or Mach 10, Mach 5 to Mach 10 reaction time, or Mach 5 to Mach 10 combat speed, that's fine. Naruto never once outpaces his combat speed. Naruto never once does it, so it's not an argument. At least it's not an argument that is backed up by any legitimate evidence, and it's definitely not backed up by the actual sequence of events that occurred throughout the story. I mean, Sasuke even rips, like, right here, you could say, well, they're both jumping at each other with speed, and they're both thrusting at each other with speed. Cool. Gaara's thrusting speed, his arm speed, because his combat speed, you can argue, it's been amped to the same extent as Sasuke. Fantastic. Still, Sasuke still pierces him through and through, and Sasuke's progressively getting weaker as the fight progresses, until he's forced to use the curse mark, which isn't even amping him by that much by this point. He's basically just using it to get even more chakra, so that he can perform a slightly more powerful attack. The curse mark doesn't really seem as impressive, which again makes me believe that that first scene with Sasuke is inconsistent. And as far as, like, as we see Naruto pull up, you could be like, yeah, but like Naruto, he blitzes Gaara right here. No, he does not. Can you? Oh wait, it expired? How the fuck did this link expire? Oh, I guess, wait, 25 people joined? There's no way. Let's edit the invite link. I'll just do 25 more. Let's just do the edit link. Yeah, I'll do 25 more. Right? So, we're kind of coming into a bit of a... So, I'm not able to... That's the strange part. They're all off-screen fights with Neji and Lee. I can't get a good gauge of it. Exactly. So, if you cannot get a good gauge of it, you can believe... Listen, I'm not telling you you can't believe it, Royland. I'm not telling you cannot believe that Lee is ever tried to use the primary Lotus or ever went full speed against Neji. I'm not saying that it is impossible. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is in order to convince me, especially to bring it up as like a baseline fact or to treat it as something that should be a fact is inherently disingenuous, because it's putting in this position that Lee must have done it and he must have performed these actions even though there's nothing to back it up. So again, like you said, you can't get a good gauge of it, right? You cannot get a good gauge of it. And that's my problem. If I can't get a good gauge of it and I'm just basically arguing something entirely on speculation, it creates that inconsistency. So, back to the point. Back to my point. Naruto never once blitzes Gaara. Never once does it. If anything, he tells him to get the fuck out. He says, let's run, yada, 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 yada. Naruto jumps at Gaara, just gets whacked away casually. Gaara starts to transform even more and more. Naruto never dodges his attacks. Gaara's transforming more and more and more, blows him away, keeps blowing him back. Naruto's not as fast as these guys. He's never portrayed to be as fast. He's never shown to be as fast. He doesn't have a single feat besides a single moment where he performs a body flicker-like technique. And it's not even something that I'm trying to downplay or make up. I'm literally showing you guys the panels. So, Naruto, the reason why I have to go into this whole speed scaling is to now express that Naruto is not only slower than the speed of sound. Naruto starts off the series at a speed that is lower than the speed of sound. And that's kind of it. That's kind of all I have to go off of for early part 1 Naruto, right? He has to be at least marginally close enough to where a 3 times amp or a 5 times amp or whatever the fuck you think the tailed beast type amp is can make him fast enough to deal with Sasuke as we progress, but that's just exponential growth that Naruto seems to go through as the story progresses. And even then, just to be clear about one thing, Naruto's not even fighting Sasuke base to base at this point. Wait, I'll get to that in a little bit. Naruto never once beats Gaara, outspeed blitzes him, does anything of the sort. He basically gets Gaara with an explosion, which he verbatim states he underestimated Naruto. right here. I managed to target, yeah. Underestimated him, but still, either way, I'm ending this now. Yada yada yada. Naruto does the whole thing. Gaara goes into Shikaku, and there are no speed feats from here on out. At least as far as Naruto goes, there's just no speed feats for him. He's essentially just attacking a thing. Alright. Naruto rarely ever performs the body flicker technique throughout the initial portions of the series, and the only time he really performs something like this is when he's using the Nine Tails cloak against Denji, and later on against Sasuke. Let me pull up the Sasuke fight real quick, just to be clear that I'm not making some shit up with this. Yeah, because even with Naruto, like, having this, I mean, it's not like Naruto's, like, hard speed blitzing Sasuke or anything. He's just physically overpowering him. The problem here isn't his speed. Now, here he's saying that he is fast, but this is also the only time that we ever see these characters fight underwater. So, Naruto speed blitzing Sasuke while swimming underwater, I can't really tell you he's swimming around at Mach 1. I can't even really tell you he's doing that, especially since water does slow him down. Anyway. Yeah, Naruto essentially, just gets the cloak, and this is where, like, he starts to, like, blitz Sasuke. Well, not even blitz Sasuke, because Sasuke's still able to perceive it, and his body's still able to keep up with it. So essentially, the increase in speed that Naruto's getting around even this point in the story, it's enough to where he can still catch off Sasuke off guard, and Sasuke can still barely keep up, but overall, thanks to the Sharingan, it's not that heavy. It's not that heavy. But yeah, I don't know. I think base Naruto shows physical speed relative to Sasuke at the beginning of chapter 226. Let's see 226. I got you. 226, 226, 226, 226. Okay. Okay, so now they're yapping. They're both running. Okay. Sasuke grabs a kunai, throws it. If you're talking about, like, them running towards each other, I don't think that that's verbatim proof of him just being as physically fast as Sasuke. More so they're just running towards one another, right? Like, it doesn't prove it, and you can argue it, but it doesn't necessarily prove it, right? Sasuke throws Naruto, activates Chidori, they use Rasengan, they both run towards each other. Naruto needs a clone to throw him forward, and yeah, they clash right here. They both get blasted back. Sasuke tried to kill him. Naruto dodges the attack. Sasuke easily speed blitzes Naruto with the curse mark and sends him flying, and then, yeah, lands the curse mark, and Naruto starts to push him back, and now starts to, like, turn the fight around almost to a similar extent once he uses the cloak, which, if anything, would imply that the amp from the curse mark and the amp from the QB cloak, at least as far as this amp specifically and this amp right here, imply a at least a relative increase in strength for the two of them, right? Did you dink bunk Habu hitting Naruto at light speed? Is he even light speed in the mirrors? Yes, I've already discussed all of that. All of that has already been discussed. Damn, after the ban is over for me, mods don't fuck with me. I don't know if I have to, like, personally change something myself. Yo, Eon, do you have any thoughts on the idea that a cozy restaurant simulator One Piece game might be the best One Piece game of all time? I'm not gonna lie, it's not a very high bar to set. It's not a very high bar to... It's just not a high bar, dude. One Piece games, like, the best One Piece games are at best mid. Like, they're like, okay, right? Like, you buy in, you're like, yeah, I had fun. I bought it, you know. It was what it is. I don't know. I think One Piece is just really needs a 2D fighting game. A 2D Arc System Works fighting game. But that's my only take on that. Okay. Naruto rarely ever performs the body flicker technique throughout the initial portions of the story, and the only time he really performs something like this is using a ninja cloak against Neji, and later on against Sasuke, while under the influence of marijuana of the Nine Tails. How many pages have I written so far? 15? Okay. While under the influence of the Nine Tails. Naruto is just never portrayed. Naruto is never portrayed, stated, Naruto's never stated, portrayed, or stated. Stated or portrayed sounds better. Stated or portrayed to be as physically fast. To be as physically fast as Sasuke or Lee. And in truth, I don't. They simply never portrayed. Never portrayed to be as fast as Rock Lee. People have this misconception that idea that Rock Lee must have fought Neji at least once without his weights, because Neji doesn't show any kind of reaction or surprise or reaction when he removes them and unveils his true speed. Therefore, he must be at least as fast as Lee. The issue that I have with this line of logic essentially boils down to the following. The lack of evidence that Rock Lee has ever performed the primary lotus, or that he's trained with Lee weightlessly. There's no tangible evidence, as far as I'm aware, within the context of the manga, and if the anime were to go out of its way to show it, it's likely in a filler arc. Actually, manga. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it like that. Manga. Even then, my issue with this idea is that it creates this narrative that Neji must be as fast, physically fast as Rock Lee in terms of every single stat, including raw movement speed. While I could agree that Neji can have Mach 1 to Mach 10 reaction and combat speed, if we were to go off of this idea that he's relative to Lee's weightless and gate amp speed, Naruto never once speed blitzes him. Nor does he ever once catch him off guard, besides the only blow he ever lands. Neji is a stationary fighter. He doesn't move around a lot from his initial position when he fights, and the gentle fist usually... Actually... Fist... Select the rotation. And the Byakugan to perform techniques. I have to type it out. Byakugan. Directly attack. Directly attack. The chakra points of his opponents. Or to get them in range so that he can land the 8 trigrams 64 palms. 64 palms. Cameron, where do you have this statement? Where did you find it? Is it within the context of the, Got you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Last page of 82. Okay. In terms of speed, Lee can't be surpassed. I thought you... Thank you. Oh my god, thank you. Yeah, there's stuff like this that I just miss. I have to... Part of the reason why, like, I'm just missing some of this shit, too, is because, like, this whole idea of, like, the curse mark amp thing just kind of threw me off while I was writing my, script. Thank you so much. Movement speed. Naruto never once. Yeah. You just stationary. And the Byakugan. In order to directly attack the target points, or to get in them in range so that he can land the 8 trigram 64 palm. His fighting style doesn't ever really involve him moving. He doesn't really move that often. His fighting style doesn't ever really involve a lot of movement in terms of his position. So there's no real argument one can make that he's as physically fast as Lee. Especially since Might Guy states himself that in terms of speed, Lee can't be surpassed. Which would include Neji. During their encounter, in the second round, third round of the tuning exams, Naruto never once... Okay. Every single attempt, Naruto tried to make in order for prior to utilizing the chakra of the Nine Tails after Neji sealed away his Tenketsu. I'll just write Tower Purple. Was essentially were all easily countered by one of Neji's attacks. It's only after unlocking this form that, as I said before, is either a 3 or 5 times amp. Which as a reminder is that Naruto was capable of performing a high-speed movement technique, and even then, Neji could still technically follow him. None of Naruto's attacks caught him off guard or by surprise. And the power that he gained from the cloak was enough for him to completely overpower force Neji's rotation. Afterwards, Naruto catches him off guard with an uppercut straight from the ground, which one-shot him. I'll come back to this point a little later on, but my overall conclusion from this is that Naruto is never... simply cannot be as fast as Rock Lee or Sasuke without any kind of a Ninetales amp, and I genuinely only believe that he starts to catch up during the latter half of the pre-time skip. Now, there are a couple of inconsistencies here that I do want to bring up, especially in regards to Sasuke's version 2 first utilization of the curse mark. All the way back in the Forest of Death, during their encounter with the Sound Shinobi, Sasuke awakens having half of his body covered in the curse mark Orochimaru had placed on him earlier. With He states that he's bursting with power and that he feels strong. Dosu states that his chakra is immense and that it's too large for his body to contain. And as he's trying to finish his thought, Zaku blasts Sasuke with a supersonic air slice. Sasuke was easily capable of blitzing the attack and easily knocked away Zaku, even having Dosu think to himself that he's not only fast, but he's also strong enough to lift both Naruto and Sakura at once. As I expressed earlier, Their attacks should be, at the very least, Mach 2 to Mach 5. However, given what we know about the Curse Mark amps, in order for Sasuke to be as fast as enough to blitz this attack, the Curse Mark would have to be amping him by over 10 times. At least 10 times. Which, if you know anything about Naruto scaling, would be inconsistent with the version 2 cloaks curse marks that we see later on from the Sound 4. If Sasuke is slower than Rock Lee, who needs the first gate in order to move at the speed of sound, most at the speed of sound, least the speed of sound to borderline supersonic speeds. If Sasuke is slower than Rock Lee, who needs the first gate in order to move at least at the speed of sound, or borderline supersonic speeds, and the same technique could perception blitz him, then he would have to at least be as fast as Rock Lee in terms of movement speed. Weighted. In order to make up the speed difference with the version 1 cloak, Curse Mark would have to be at least as fast as Weighted Lee. This obviously isn't entirely... There's a reason why I specified... There is a reason why I specified that earlier that Rock Lee is definitively faster than Sasuke in terms of... Rock Lee is faster than Sasuke in terms of combat speed, and not just movement speed. Now, there's a couple of ways of going about this. One could argue that the Curse Mark amp that Sasuke received could still be 10 times amp, and the version 2 curse marks, V2 curse marks, is a 10 times amp in addition to the version 1 amp, V1 amp, but I disagree with this. Sage Mode and the curse marks are narratively implied to be similar, especially since they both use natural energy in order to achieve this power. And Sage Mode is, at the very least, a 10 times amp, as stated in one of the databooks. Implied in one of the databooks. This also wouldn't make much sense to me, considering that Naruto was capable of outperforming and outspeeding Sasuke during their final fight when he used the one-tailed cloak, because it would imply that the one-tailed cloak is over 100 times stronger, and as I stated earlier, stronger, which is inconsistent with the scaling that I provided earlier. Now, these aren't really the biggest reasons why I don't necessarily think that this is consistent. Believe that this is inconsistent. But it's more so because the Sound 4 required the Curse Mark V2, their V2 curse marks, in order to fight two Jonin who were just two Jonin that were returning from a mission while also suffering from extremely low chakra reserves. This is something that people often overlook, but the Sound 4 aren't even as powerful as Jonin. Even faster than Kuro. I have absolutely, you would genuinely have to believe, in order for all of the scaling to make sense, you would have to believe that the Sound Force are more powerful, required. Each required a 100 times amp in order to beat two random nameless Jonin with low chakra reserves returning from a mission that they also outnumbered 2-1 and were extremely tired afterwards. That seems like an egregious overestimation of what nameless Jonin can accomplish, and nothing in the series really backs up that the difference in strength is 100-fold. I genuinely think that this feat with Sasuke is inconsistent to the rest of the scaling. And it's a one-time case where even the curse mark seems like it's unleashing way more power than later uses. Like when Sasuke fought Gaara, and the amp in strength wasn't even remotely as drastic. Especially if I'm supposed to believe that he got 10 times stronger. Especially if I'm supposed to believe that he got 10 times stronger. I'll talk more about the curse marks. I will talk more about the V2 curse mark as we move on to the next round of the video? Curse marks. As we move on to the second later rounds of the video. But for now, I'm going to simply blow this one off as a singular inconsistency for the sake of the video. 6. By the way, I found another inconsistency with why the curse mark V2 cannot be a 10 times amp on top of the V1. Just to be clear. It just doesn't work, specifically it comes from 2 Jonin. What's that? It's right here. When they take, whenever they took Sasuke, they actually ran into 2 Jonin. Oh, they weren't nameless Jonin. They have names, I just can't be bothered to remember them, yeah. Yeah, so these 2 guys, you remember these 2 guys? Yeah, they fight the Sound 4. They already start using the curse mark, which means in order to fight these guys, they essentially have to... like, use a 10 times amp just to start fighting these guys, and though they win... They say right here, Drac, we were such in a hurry, and what were we doing kicking up our feet? Fighting in our second state took a toll on us. The toughest part is being able to use our bodies for a while. Well, they were joning, and 2 of them to boot. We will be held back. If we had held back, we'd be dead right now. So, in order for you to sit here and argue that, like, the Jonin... So, in order for you to sit here and argue that, like, you know, the Curse Mark V2 is 100 times amp, you essentially have to believe that these 2 guys are essentially over 100 times stronger than the Sound 4, especially while outnumbering them, especially while being outnumbered 2 to 1. And we know for a fact that in a later statement from them through Tsunade, I recall this as I was typing up the video, typing up. Where the fuck is it? Right here, it says, but man, if it was Sasuke inside the casket against those foes, like that handful of Genin, won't do. I mean, granted, we were coming off from a mission and out of chakra. So, for whatever reason, if you believe that the V1, that the V2 cloak is a 10 times amp on top of the V1 cloak, you have to genuinely believe that these 2 guys, with basically next to out of chakra, and while being outnumbered, are still over 100 times stronger than them. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. I'm sorry. There's just no way my mind will allow me to even remotely adhere that. They won, but they didn't even kill those 2. Yeah, they didn't even kill them. They had to run away. They said that we had to use them or we'd be dead. It's just not close. It's just not close. A 10 times amp, I get it. A 10 times amp, sure, why not, right? 100 times amp, no, just does not make sense. So I'm just simply going to blow this one off as a singular inconsistency within the video. Either way, Naruto's speed scaling for most of the series, yeah, that makes sense, sadly. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm glad that you could see that. So, this out of chakra thing seems like enough of a nail in the coffin to the 100 times thing. Yeah. So, his fighting style doesn't really blah, 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 blah. Curse mark. Yeah. So, I have it right here. Now, there are a couple of inconsistencies. Now, there is a specific inconsistency. Here that I do want to bring up, especially in regards to Sasuke's first utilization of the curse mark. All the way back in the Forest of Death, during the encounter with the Sound Shinobi, Sasuke awakens with half of his body covered in the curse mark that Orochimaru placed on him. He states that he's bursting with power and that he feels strong. Dosu states that his chakra is immense, that it's too large for his body to contain, and as he's trying to finish his thought, Zaku blasts Sasuke with a supersonic air slice. Sasuke Sasuke was easily capable of blitzing the attack and easily knocked away Zaku, even having Dosu think that he's not only fast, but he's also strong enough to lift both Naruto and Sakura at once. As I expressed earlier, their attack should be, at the very least, Mach 2 to Mach 5. However, given that we know about the Curse Mark Amps, in order for Sasuke to be as fast, in order for Sasuke to be fast enough, not as fast, fast enough to blitz this attack, Curse Mark, the Curse Mark would have to be emping him by at least 10 times. Which, if you know anything about Naruto scaling, would be inconsistent with the version 2 Curse Mark that we see later on from the Sound 4. If Sasuke is slower than Rock Lee, who needs the first gate in order to move at least at the speed of sound or borderline supersonic speeds, and the same technique could perception blitz him, then he would have to be at the very least as fast as Weighted Lee in terms of movement speed in order to make up the speed difference with the version 1 cloak, with the V1 cloak, with the V1 mark. There is a reason why I specified earlier that Rock Lee is faster than Sasuke in terms of combat speed and not just movement speed. Now, there's a couple of ways of going about this. One could argue that the Curse Mark Amp that Sasuke receives could still be a 10 times amp, and the V2 Curse Mark is a 10 times amp in addition to the V1 amp, but I disagree with this claim is a 10 times amp in this exact instance only, as its first awakening. If the V2 one could also argue that the V1 cloak V1 Curse Mark, that the V1 Curse Mark is a 10 times amp that one can argue that the V1 Curse Mark is a 10 times amp, and the V2 Curse Mark is a 10 times amp in addition to the V1 amp. But I disagree with this. Sage Mode and the Curse Marks are narratively implied to be similar, especially since they both use natural energy in order to achieve this power, and Sage Mode is at the very least a 10 times amp as implied in one of the data books. This is also wouldn't make any sense to me, considering that Naruto was capable of outperforming and outspeeding Sasuke during the final fight when he used a one-tailed cloak, because it would imply that the one-tailed cloak is over 100 times stronger, which is inconsistent with the scaling that I provided earlier. Now, these aren't really the biggest reasons why I believe that this is inconsistent, but it's more so because the Sound 4 required the V2 curse marks, their V2 curse marks, in order to fight two Jonin that were returning from a mission while also suffering from low chakra reserves. This is something that people often overlook, but the Sound 4 aren't as powerful as Jonin. In order for all of the scaling to make sense, you would have to believe that in order for this inconsistency to make sense, in order for all of this to make sense, all of this scaling to make sense, and in order for this inconsistency to make sense, in order for this inconsistency to make sense, you would have to believe that the Sound 4 each required a 110 times amp in order to beat two random Jonin with low chakra reserves returning from a mission that they also outnumbered 2-1 and were extremely tired afterwards. And even stated they would die, and even stated they would have died if they didn't go all out. That seems like an egregious overestimation of what some nameless shonin can accomplish, and nothing of what some... I'm not gonna say nameless, because they do have names of what some random jonin, in the grand scheme of things, can accomplish, and nothing in the series really backs up that the difference is 100-fold. I genuinely think that this feat with Sasuke is inconsistent to the rest of the scaling, and it's a one-time case where even the curse mark seems like it's unleashing way more power than later uses, like when Sasuke fought Gaara and the amp in strength wasn't even remotely as drastic. Especially if I'm supposed to believe that he got 10 times stronger. And from Gaara, especially if I'm supposed to believe that he got 10 times stronger during their clash. I will talk more about the V2 curse marks as we move on later. Simply a one-off singular inconsistency for the sake of the video. And to be honest, you can't expect everything within the context of a story. Expect every single minor detail to be 100% consistent with every other feat in the story. Kishimoto, actually, I'm not gonna go into that in the story. So are we going with V2 but not V1? I'm going with V2 but not V1. It just doesn't make any sense for it to be a 10 times amp on top of a 10 times amp. It just does not make any fucking sense. Could be an outlier, but it's still inconsistent. Yeah, no. He is all in on writing. Yeah. Again, this is the level of detail that I want to cover, and I want to make one thing clear for you guys. This is just stuff that I had already... All of this stuff, by the way, is just shit that I had already written earlier down. I'm just gonna delete all of this. I don't really care about any of this. So far, we are 17 pages in, which means that this is already bordering on about a 1-hour video, and I'm not even done with just describing Naruto alone in the first round of the video. Hopefully, as I continue to write, and as I continue to establish specific points of each story and the scaling of each character, I'm going to make it clear, would you be using V1 at all or ignore it entirely? At least as far as the speed scaling goes, Naruto just does not scale to Sasuke. Naruto just really doesn't scale to Sasuke's speed. Like, he really just does not. 3 times M. I personally believe that the curse mark I personally believe that the V1 curse mark offers amps on that increase the character's stats to a similar degree the Ninetales, Red Eyes, Ninetales state that Naruto uses throughout the story. So it should approximately be a 3 to 5 times amp. 3 or 5 times amp. Which would also be consistent with some scaling from some scaling that I will cover later on in Naruto vs. Sasuke Part 1. For now, I think the best that I can quantify Naruto to, especially if I give him every single benefit of doubt, is anywhere below the speed of sound with potential Mach 1 to supersonic Mach 2 to 5. Speed scaling while under the influence of the Ninetales. In base with potential Mach 1 to Mach 5 while under the influence of the Ninetales. Just pre and post fight. Okay, so it's 5 rounds per fight. I'm covering Naruto only right now. I am only covering Naruto alone. I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you guys. Can't even call that benefit of doubt at all. Yeah, no, it's really not benefit of doubt. It's basically just me wanking Naruto. I'm basically just giving Naruto, Sasuke, and Rock Lee speed scaling. Giving Naruto every single benefit of doubt is... If I give... Okay, I'm going to remove it. If I give him the speed scaling presented in the story. Presented by the story. I think the best I can quantify Naruto to in terms of... is anywhere below the speed of sound in base with potential Mach 1 to Mach 5 to Mach 2, Mach 1 to Mach 2 to Mach 5. Either transonic, speed of sound in base to potential transonic to supersonic. While under the influence of the Ninetales. Naruto is just not as fast as his peers. Naruto is simply never portrayed to be as fast as his peers. Wait, what do you mean? This is what I tell all scalers. They need to put aside their likes and dislikes and scale 2 series fairly with 0 favorites. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. That's literally what I'm doing right now. As his peers. And as the story progresses, we will see massive leaps and bounds in terms of his speed scaling, but for now, there's really not much I can go off of. You could legitimately make Naruto Lightspeed and then give Naruto every multiplier in the book, and the Fishman pill meta tears any Naruto speed scaling a new one. Yeah. Okay. I personally believe that No, you're not trying to use anything possible to make... No, you're not. You're trying to use anything possible to make Naruto weaker than One Piece. So can you express to me how fast you think Naruto is and why I'm apparently trying to make Naruto weaker than One Piece? Can you do that? Can you try to express that? Explain to me right now what the problem is. As a matter of fact, I'll even do you one better. I've basically done as much work as I can do for today. If I can, there's a Discord link right there. If you want to hop in, we can just have a discussion on... I could literally just have a discussion with you. I don't make things toxic. I don't really call anybody anything. I just want to literally listen to your line of logic. Because if you're saying that I'm not being fair to Naruto here, what exactly am I supposed to give him? Because apparently I'm just missing chapters or statements at this point. You're more than welcome to say yes, or you can just type in what you want. You're more than welcome to. I will await a response. I'm trying right now to see how low I can get One Piece speed without disregarding the narrative. Basically, I'm taking into account observation hockey everywhere I can. It's FTL by a large margin. Of course it is. One Piece has some of the most consistent light speed scaling in all of fiction, bro. Yo, apparently, like, people are going around taking pictures of Robin and reducing her breast size. That's funny as fuck. So, Nuglet, are you gonna give me anything or not? Or am I just gonna sit? Should I just end this? I could just end the stream right now, too. Simple yes or no, Nuglet. Jesus Christ. You said numerous times that Naruto, who had Speedless as FTL, and said Naruto punches scaled. Okay, my guy. Are you... Could you possibly comprehend that I've been literally saying I am talking about early Naruto? Early Naruto. I'm not even talking about another character. I'm not even talking about anything crazy. I'm talking about Naruto in the first 100 chapters of the story. Where the fuck is there? Who the fuck is talking about Raikage? Who the fuck is talking about Kurama or Toneri or all that crap? I'm not talking about any of that. I am talking about... What the fuck happened here? No one is even remotely trying to talk about or trying to downplay anything that we're talking about later on. I'm talking about you in general and how you treat the whole Naruto meta and all your uploads. Oh! Yes! What, Naruto? Wait, you're saying that I said Naruto blitzed the Raikage alone as FTL? I've never once said that that's FTL. I've said that I can agree to it being FTL. I can agree to it being FTL if you have to just believe in the data book scheme. 1 second. I have to step outside for a second. I have to step outside my room. I have like this little like balcony thing behind my room. It's nothing too crazy, but something fell from it, and because water's leaking in now, I gotta clean the floor real quick. Okay. In my videos, I stated that Naruto is light speed when he dodges the Raikage. If you choose to believe the databook statement that I generally don't necessarily have to agree with. Mind you, the databook statement specifies he's almost light speed. He's not light speed. The Raikage has next to no light speed scaling whatsoever. And also, just to be clear, why do you ever think twice in believing that Luffy has obvious weaknesses such as water and general sharp objects and Naruto counters him hard? Nuglet, if you want to have this discussion, we can. I can have you up. I'm not gonna call out anything. I don't insult people when I want to listen to your line of logic, because you're sitting here telling me that Luffy has weaknesses such as water in general and sharp objects. Yes, sharp objects. You know what's a sharp object? You want me to show you a really sharp object? Kaido's Kanabo, which is infused with Haki. You know, Haki, that thing that counters Devil Fruit abilities, that makes normal blunt force punches work. And you know what he did with that Haki? He literally slammed it into the back of Luffy's face. He literally slams it into the back of Luffy's face, and his face isn't pierced through. Luffy's not weak to piercing attacks. If you actually read One Piece, how many peeps are in there? 59 to get... What are you talking about? No one's gonna get at your head. I don't do that type of shit. I don't know what... Listen, I don't know what kind of communities you've seen before. I don't know what kind of, like, live streams or whatever you see. A conversation between you and me would be just you and me. Nobody would be hopping into the call. Nobody was going to be talking to you other than me. I don't do that kind of dog shit fucking... let's all just jump on one guy because he disagrees with us. I don't do that shit, man. I've never done that. I just sit down, I'll be quiet, I'll hear out everything you want to say, And then I will express where I'm coming from. If you want to do that, we can. I am not Noodles. I am not Jay the Great. I am not any of these other power scalers that think, oh, shit has to be toxic in order for us to have a discussion. I don't do that shit, man. I don't agree with it. Honestly, I'm one of the very few channels. I'm basically like the first power scaler to really go out of his way to say, don't do that toxic shit, especially in my community. I don't fuck with that shit. And if you go in, and if you actually go into, and when you join my stream, if you got a community guidelines thing, it would have told you there's no insulting people in this shit. I don't do that. So again, if you want to have a conversation about this, we can. I got a little bit of time. If you want to, we can. Otherwise, it's kind of like talking to a brick wall. I don't personally care at that point. I'm just probably going to end stream then. Anyway, this is true. He has already timed out numerous individuals when something someone Eon disagrees with. I posted a burning question I had. What was the question? I'm going to have... Oh my god, I had to censor Reddit because my messages kept getting censored. I posted a burning question I had. Where'd you post the question to? Is it in here? No, that's the mod chat. That's the break room. I don't care about that. Yeah. There's people who believe Kid Naruto is faster than an L. Yeah, and they would be fucking wrong to believe that shit, dude. That shit is an insane fucking take. No, it's on YouTube chat. Ah. What was the question? Okay, is it okay to post your video on Reddit? Maybe you'll get more views. Yeah, if you want to post it on Reddit, if you guys want to share it, I'm not going to tell you not to share it. That's on you. If you guys want to, I would appreciate it. I'm not going to say anyone has to. I'm not going to force anyone to do it. I would appreciate it regardless. But yeah, I'm going to be honest. I might have to, like, put out this video in portions, because, real talk, this might be, like, a 6-hour long video. I'm hoping that as I get through, like, the later parts of the scaling, because I've already talked about so much from, like, the early portions, I can just move on to, like, the later ends and not have to focus on much. You have to unban me from the servers so I can rejoin them. Mod abuse, go crazy. I'll talk to them about it. In a fight, but not in a speed alone, who do you think is faster between Enel versus the Raikage? You can definitely argue the Raikage. You can definitely argue the Raikage is faster if you don't agree with the Oda. You have to duck at light speed in order to dodge him. Not the video itself, I mean, but Reddit might bring negative attention. That's what I meant. Oh, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, I know for a fact that I can make a better argument than basically 99% of people on Reddit. And that's not even a fucking hot take. I genuinely believe this. This isn't even ego. This isn't anything like that. I've seen the arguments that so many people make. I genuinely do not have a single damn reason to entertain this idea that, like, oh, hey, I generally don't have a damn reason to believe that, like, oh yeah, like, half of the arguments that I see from people argue in Reddit essentially boil down to, by this specific logic, this should be XYZ, Naruto's fighting gods, weird light speed meta here. I'm covering everything I can, dude. At the end of the day, people don't like it. People don't like it. I don't really care, and I don't care. And at the end of the day, negative attention is attention. I'm gonna make sure that I cover my bases as well with the editing, so I don't get it demonetized. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be a very. But I don't want you to end up getting bombarded with these people. I don't care if they were. I don't care. At the end of the day, the more people that watch, even if it annoys them, the more people who choose to watch my video, whether they think it's rage bait or whether they don't, the fact is, it doesn't really matter to me. Oh, what's good, Scott? I was working on an argument that I kind of got stuck in, and so I kind of just started working through some of my lines of logic and stuff, and I ended up just writing a couple of extra pages. I think yesterday. I think so far through today, I've written 6 pages. Yeah. Most power scaling is people just throwing out an opinion and then building their scaling off of that. Yeah. People don't base their arguments. People never base their arguments off of. I almost feel like people base the scaling off of the argument, not the argument off of the scaling. That's an issue that I see people do. So you actually ending stream, or was that a bluff? I mean, if what's his face doesn't want to chat, I don't have a reason to keep staying on. I'm starving. I gotta go heat up my rice so I can just have some food, man. So I might just dip out. I'm not gonna lie. I might just dip. Yeah. How do you rank Sabo? By the way, love your vids, bro. Oh, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. 30 minutes every time. I'm not gonna try and give you guys any more time, honestly. Like, I'm really hungry, and I wasn't really planning on streaming today. It was never my intention originally, but I got stuck on that whole like Sasuke thing. So I said, helping you guys, having you guys help me work through it was honestly extremely helpful. Yeah. Listen, like, I hope you guys can see that I'm like not just twiddling my thumbs every day doing jack shit. Like, I said I'd start the actual text of the video like a week and a half ago. And I'm already like 20 pages into the script. Would you consider making more shorts, please? Fuck no. You're not gonna get strips. You're not gonna get shorts. There's no way I'm making a short, especially when I have to spend a day just typing out portions of the script. Like, if you guys can see the level of like emphasis that I'm putting into like trying to cover all my bases, as many as I can at least. There's just no way. There's just no way I'm gonna find the time or energy to like type out a script, especially when I still have to. I actually have to still buy the editing software again. I was gonna make a meme with my girlfriend a couple days ago. She and I were like joking about something. I was gonna make a meme, and I was like, "Oh shit, my editing software's. I have to. It's timed out. I have to basically reinstate my key, but I'm not gonna pay for it if I'm not even gonna like edit or work on anything yet. I gotta sleep. Gotta pick up a post package, of course, and then I gotta. Okay, have a good one then. Have a good one, Memento. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Likewise for everyone else. You're returning to streaming next week? Nope, absolutely not. Or just secretly enjoying Bleach secretly. I don't enjoy Bleach, bro. That Bleach is so ass. I don't enjoy that shit. Honestly, if you were to stream the writing like this and not answer questions from chat, it would be fine, at least to me. Going over Naruto again is honestly helpful since I plan to reread. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm not planning on doing these too often. It's just like sporadic. Like, you guys will see maybe like a stream or two sporadically happening whenever I'm like stuck on an argument or where I might need like something else. I'll probably just be working with 6. I'll probably just be working with like 6 or one of the other mods every now and then, like just showing them the script just to see like what do they think, is there anything I'm missing, stuff like that, and then I'll keep going onward. I don't know yet. I'm like on a 50-50 if I should edit the entire thing through and through or if I should just split it up into like multiple different rounds. But for now, yeah, no. I'm like an hour in and I'm just describing Naruto scaling alone. Like, this is just the first hour. I'm just describing Naruto scaling. It's too much, man. It's honestly a lot of information that I'm going into just for this. Maybe. I don't know if I want to do a multi-part thing. I don't know if I want to like. I don't know if I just want to get it. I'm gonna finish the script first, then I'll decide. Once I finish the script and like conceptualize how big the video would have to be, because I'm gonna be honest with you, this might even turn into like a 10-hour video. Like, at this rate, I really don't know if I'm going to be able to, like, finish it, especially all the editing, by August. I might unironically take, this might unironically take me a couple months. Because I really am trying to make the best video that I can make. I really am. One last thing. There was a trip that I was talking to you guys about before I stopped streaming. That trip was canceled. I think it's fine. It's like 10 cakes or something, more the better. Yeah. Like, it'll definitely be one of those videos that, like, you either are going to have to watch in parts or it's just going to be right there. Either way, it's probably going to be the longest video I've ever made, and then I'm never making something like that again. If anyone ever pays me to make something like that again, they're going to have to pay me like a couple $1,000s. I can't wait to see the full video. Yeah. I hope you guys can see that, like, I'm not bullshitting. Like, just putting up a disclaimer. I made a disclaimer earlier within the context of, like, my posts and stuff. I made a disclaimer that is literally 4 fucking pages. You guys said to keep it within the context of the script. I'm like, alright, fuck it. Yeah, just this disclaimer alone is gonna be like 10 minutes. This disclaimer on its own. No, yeah, my grandma's good. My grandma's good, but, we couldn't make the trip for a couple of reasons. Nothing to worry about. We're not gonna be able to make the trip just for a couple of reasons. The trip was mostly for my grandmother, if anything, because she just wants to, like, go out of the country and stuff. But I told her that, like, I told my mom I'd probably be able to go, like, 1 or 2 weeks, depending on when I finish this video. I was planning on going from, like, maybe 1 week or 2, but it's not going to be the case, and I don't think I'm going to be able to, like, save up enough money anyway for it, especially considering that my revenue starting this month is just going to start dropping like crazy just because I'm not posting content. This is essentially taking up every day that I'm not focusing on this video is either something that I'm working for, like, you know, housekeeping or stuff like that, or like personal stuff that I need to take care of. So essentially every ounce of like free time or like quote unquote work time that I have essentially goes either into this or developing more arguments that I need to put into like later portions. Anyway, basically from like the last 13 pages are just me describing Naruto's strength and speed scaling, which yeah, it's just all of that. Yeah, it's just all of that, man. I am gonna be traveling for like a couple of days in August. I told my parents I'm not going for too long. It'll probably be for like less than a week, hopefully. I'm not planning on. I don't personally care to be out of my home country for too long for a good number of reasons, but that'll be in August. I'm gonna be going for a couple of days, mostly to celebrate like some stuff out there. But yeah, why don't I just put this on the back burner and then work on it here and there, because after this you'll be burnt out. I'm not gonna feel burnt out after this, because like here's the problem, and I understand the concern, but here's the difference. Stuff like this isn't burnout for me. Specifically, this video isn't burnout for me. I have had a big fucking blazing inferno in the back of my fucking head for the last year and a half, just thinking about this video, working on it, thinking about the video, working on it, not just working on it, thinking about the arguments, thinking about my scaling for Luffy, for Naruto, etc, etc, etc. What arguments I can make, how I can devise the video, how I'm going to structure it. I'm putting it all together now, but this is something that I've had in the back of my mind, even working on it in the back of my mind for the last year and a half, maybe even 2 years. I want to get it done. I'm not feeling burnout. If anything, this is one of those things where like I've thought about it so much, you would be surprised to find out that like, especially like on a random night, I'm just walking around my house just talking about this shit, man. It's a lot. If anything, I'll put it like this, it's like working on a doctorate, or like working on at least to me, in my mind, it's like working on like a big research a research paper, a big fucking research-based paper, like a PhD, like some shit. Like this is basically like my PhD thesis on fucking power scaling, as an example. I don't know how many pages the fucking script is gonna turn out to. I hope it doesn't even reach 100 pages. If it does, maybe like a 5-hour video, however long it is. It's gonna be crazy. Do you plan to watch, or is it not just speed? I don't care for He-Man. He-Man has never been a series that, like... I watched it every now and then. I remember watching, like, an episode or two of He-Man when I was, like... a little kid, on Cartoon Network. And, like, I remember also watching, like, Transformers Armada right afterwards. He-Man is not a series that I am even remotely interested in. It was just something that I had on the background because it was... It was on Cartoon Network, you know what I mean? But, yeah. I could probably give it a check out. I could probably check it out. Maybe. I don't know yet. But I'm gonna catch you guys all later. I'm gonna have dinner, or I guess in this case, lunch. I'm gonna go have FUD. I need to talk to my girlfriend. I need to do a lot of things, so I'm gonna catch you guys all later. Thanks so much for joining up. I really appreciate it. Again, don't be on the lookout for these, but every now and then I might just put up a stream in case I'm like stuck on something and I need like some extra... Who the fuck is this Ash Ketchum looking wannabe motherfucker? Who the fuck is this? Whatever. Was the new He-Man good? I need to watch it. And Scary Movie 6. Yeah, Scary Movie 6. That's a movie I definitely want to go and watch. Just because, I don't know, we don't have movies like that anymore. We just don't have like satire movies like that anymore, and I think I miss it. But anyway, yeah, guys, I will catch you guys all later. Peace out. Have a wonderful rest of your night, and thanks you guys for joining, and thanks for all the help that I got with the video. Appreciate you guys.